Boy, we had a time last Boy, we had a time last night. I'm telling you now.
People have been asking for pictures of me from the 90s, so I posted some already, but here's another one because I just wanted to show y'all the look on my face every time somebody calls me Freaknik Tina. I cannot believe y'all. I cannot believe y'all have dubbed me Freaknik Tina. What? How can y'all do that to me? Literally, I was just trying to look out. I was trying to look out for my people. And at the same time, I'm still trying to look out. I'm out here trying to clear people's skin. I'm out here trying to give y'all a summertime glow. I'm out here trying to do, hey, if you want laser hair removal, I can do it. I'm out here trying to help. That's why people don't be helpful, because it backfires on them. I mean, literally. I'm an esthetician, y'all. This is what I do. I do skin. I do skin. So, unfortunately, now when you Google Freaknik Tina, my face comes up. And then y'all gonna let the video go viral, and I hadn't even filled in my eyebrows. So, I filled in my eyebrows today, just in case. Listen, y'all, if y'all want to take care of your skin, you can see me at Lash Wax and Glow, or you can see me at Dermani Med Spa. I'm an esthetician. That is how I identify myself. Just one of the ways anyway. Not Freaknik. I'm just saying. But it was a good time. But that doesn't identify me.
It's a hard thing to admit, but it's understandable why they would choose to go their own way. And that's what's scary, is there's actually a rational reason why they would do that.
Men going their own way. And you can think what you want about it, but this is a really big problem for women, for us, for our future, for families, for you to find a partner. If a population of good men are walking away because they're fed up with women,
if you're being told all your life that you are bad and wrong just for being a man, and that you have toxic masculinity for being a man, and that, women, there's this famous expression that, a woman needs a man just like a fish needs a bicycle. And that men are basically useless. And that men are terrible, and that, women are superior.
Our society is very callous towards men. The only message most men hear in the world is that they're a bumbling buffoon. The TV shows are full of idiot men. Commercials show men as buffoons. The society is against them. All they hear about is what idiots men are.
It's the mass of women that are taking over the culture and representing women. They're loud. They're mean. They say they want equality. Why are they not protesting in the streets for the changing the laws for alimony or child support or child custody? Because they don't want equality. They want superiority.
It's a hard thing to admit, but it's understandable why they would choose to go their own way. And that's what's scary, is there's actually a rational reason why they would do that.
Men going their own way. And you can think what you want about it, but this is a really big problem for women, for us, for our future, for families, for you to find a partner. If a population of good men are walking away because they're fed up with women,
If you're being told all your life that you are bad and wrong just for being a man, and that you have toxic masculinity for being a man, and that, you know, women, there's this famous expression that, you know, a woman needs a man just like a fish needs a bicycle. And that men are basically useless. And that men are terrible, and that, you know, women are superior.
Our society is very callous towards men. The only message most men hear in the world is that they're a bumbling buffoon. The TV shows are full of idiot men. Commercials show men as buffoons. The society is against them. All they hear about is what idiots men are.
It's the mass of women that are taking over the culture and representing women. They're loud. They're mean. They say they want equality. Why are they not protesting in the streets for the changing the laws for alimony or child support or child custody? Because they don't want equality. They want superiority.
The male gender has more of a slave state, and it's because men are now subjugated to the law and to women, and nobody really believes it, except the men who go through, say, the court. But most men think that they're exempt from that until they end up in a bad situation.
So for a lot of the men, and a lot of them have gotten screwed over in terrible relationships and divorces and gotten their kids taken away from them. So it's an understandable response.
In the United States of America, as a man, you can't speak up. I think most women tend to be very, I'm stereotyping, but they tend to be more collectivist. They tend to sort of be more in that socialist mindset. So I don't know that you're going to see a huge change. I think the change will have to come from men.
The lives of women will not change until the men get the opportunity to also examine and define and change their lives. In many ways, I sometimes think that the 20th century was the century where the women made all these massive changes, and the 21st century will be the changes that the men will make, partly in adaptation to the changes that the women have done.
And those men are doing something about it. They're saying, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm not getting married, or I'm divorced. They don't sit around just trying to live their life through women. They actually have lots of hobbies. They go out, they buy that land you were talking about. They're out there getting motorcycles. They're having a good time, and they're enjoying life without having to deal with the stress of the women and the society that tells them they have to have a woman in their life.
How would you feel? I mean, you know, you're not going to feel that attracted to a woman or care to be loving towards her or romantic towards her. So this men going their own way is a reaction to that. I really think it's a rational reaction to that. Men are finally like, hey, we've given you all you want. You know, you are equal in every way, and then you're still shaming us.
Before there was the manosphere, I was. Before there was the internet, I was. I was that Sigma male crying out in the wilderness for justice and equality for those that are downtrodden and broken, those that are voiceless. I was the kosher clinician before I was the kosher clinician on the internet. My plight and my war cry for justice and humanity is nothing fake. But I've always been kosher. And sit back and get this kosher fuck. Hello everyone. Is there equality in America, fact or fantasy? First of all, I would like to salute all fellow human beings, and most graciously those who are beacons of light for justice and righteousness. To vocally explain the tenets of equality, fact or fantasy, I must begin with the combination of two alphabets, I and F, which spells if. There's no respect of person, but gives protection to all them that fear him. So therefore I ask you this profound and non-scholastic question. If there was equality in America, will I be standing here today? You decide, fact or fantasy.
This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition.
Fire for your mind. Kosher clinician.
If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. Heaven and hell, that's what they told you. Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. Young heads picking back up and young dolphins. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician, masculinity issues. Absent fathers who miss you. Mama drama don't kiss you. All a part of the ritual. This is how they get you. Separate the men, women clipping babies pretend to. Damn. Lovers, haters acting like vultures. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. Listen. Listen.
All right, so once again, guys, I apologize for that technical difficulty. We're going to be asking ourselves the question, did the modern woman create 304 culture? Did the modern woman create 304 culture?
I'm not saying I can't hear anything. I can't hear anything. I'm hearing the audio. Let me take it off these headphones. Can you hear me now? Yeah, I'm still not. I can't hear anything. I was hearing you first. You kind of went out. Now I don't hear anything.
Can you hear me now?
I got you now.
You got me. All right. So we're about to get into it, guys. I apologize for the technical difficulty. But we're going to talk about, ask ourselves the question, did the modern woman cause, or Gen X women cause 304 culture? And I got a special guest, a good friend of mine, a professional brother like myself, a professional brother that's part of a Greek fraternity, and also a special brother that lived the life of the 90s and saw things that were more or less not only shock you, but have you in a state of disbelief. And for the sake of anonymity, he is part of a well-known fraternity, but for the sake of respect and respecting his brand, we're going to talk about the things that's being seen, and also why so many are afraid and scared of what might be exposed concerning this epidemic or this whole conversation with Freaknik. Dark Gable, tell the audience who you are, brother, and then I'm going to ask yourself the question: did the modern woman create, or did Gen X women create the modern woman, and also did Gen X women create the current issues we have now with promiscuity and a lack of respect for their bodies, in your opinion?
Okay. Well, first of all, let me introduce myself. Like you, I am a mental health professional. I've been in the field now for a little over 25 years. I'm a community advocate. I work, and you know, everything I do right now is really, I try not to engage in any activity or practice that's not going to be for the betterment of our people. So I work closely with the communities and really focus on trying to rebuild the dignity of our people and where we once were, and the power and the might of our people. So that's my overall focus. And really to the core of who I am, without revealing too much, my brother, because you know, we are a part of this culture right now is cancel culture.
Yes, sir.
And I want to be as direct in answering in respect to your show as possible. I don't want to filter a lot, but by me not filtering means I need to be a little more cautious. Well,
let the Lord use you, man.
You know, but to your other point, to your first question, did the modern woman create this space that we're in? Did the 90s woman?
Gen X. You're not from Gen X.
You're not from Gen X. Being Gen X, no, I don't think we created it. I will honestly say I think our parents created this because that was a generation that really bought into the women's lib and those type of the free love.
Right.
And you know, we also a product of you know, not necessarily our fathers and our upbringing, but we also a product of the crack generation of the drug, really dope heroin back then when our fathers were out there in the streets and hanging out. It was a lot of heroin going on, then crack. So I think that this has been a planned. We're actually now, all of us, the men, black women, we're all a part of we're reacting to a plan that was laid out for us as a people. The problem is we're continuing to fall for the same traps.
Right.
That was set. I will say that, you know, it was our mothers, and not necessarily yours or mine, but the mothers of the previous generation that really went into some of the pitfalls of the way they were set up through the government. But again, you cannot absolve the government because they intentionally took jobs away from our fathers in order to make public dependency more appealing and independence more appealing. And so by doing so, it really opened up our people to a lot of the foolishness we see today. So I don't necessarily blame the women, but I also know that what I will say is they definitely exacerbated the situation.
Right. But I want you to hear what I'm saying, Dark Gable. My point is that, yes, the predecessors before did play a major role, the free love movement. You're 1,000% correct. But my point is that Gen X women were the baton carriers. They took it to a whole level, to the point now, modern women behavior is out of control. You know, and I know, being part of a fraternity, and I had a chance to pledge Alpha Phi Alpha at North Carolina. I never did. For whatever reason, I won't get into it on this show, but I had a chance to pledge. And my point is this. Yes, it started with the free love movement. You're 1,000% correct, it did. But, however, we can't be ignorant, Dark Gable, to assume not that Gen X women didn't play a major role as the baton carriers to the malaise that we have now. And I'm going to explain to it why. Many times in the past, women in the 90s, they were doing stuff, ain't nothing new under the sun. But it was shameful. And you know, being in a famous fraternity, that certain things women just didn't do back in the day. Not saying they won't, you know, give them fellatio or nothing like that, but they were very cautious. It was like a novelty. Now it's the norm. What's your take on that?
Now, I would say this: there was a definitely different level of shame to it.
Right. That's my point. Right.
Yeah. So because, you know, my uncles and whatnot, these guys were running the street hard and hot and heavy. And so I knew a lot of what was going on between some of the old women in the church. You know, you would see some things, hear some things that would blow your mind sometimes.
Right.
And so it was definitely happening. But there was also a level of
modesty.
Of modesty that went along with it. And, you know, it was kind of more under wraps. Whereas today, partly because of technology, it's becoming, it's been thrown in the forefront. And it's been sold to our women as a norm also. The one thing I like to do now in this phase is in a process of pointing out, even with the sisters of Weber, you know, I just as a man on my side, I try to look at it from all perspectives.
Right.
You know, but if we're going to talk about it just from their perspective, absolutely. I mean, I could tell you from the 90s, brother. But I can't say that it was a norm, but it was beginning. You started to see the beginning of the openness of whole culture. You know what I'm saying?
Right. The beginning of the openness of it. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you know, but a lot of if you notice, the Lil Kims were coming out.
Right.
And they were really selling our girls. Now, I would still say though, my closest friends in college were still very modest and still are to this day. You know, a lot of women our generation, but they began to pass along this idea to their daughters. And this, you start to really see that I don't need a man. More than anything, what we're seeing now in our culture is the absence of masculinity and the absence of celebrating masculinity. And that's probably the biggest fault that I would say happened in the 90s that really leads to where we are today. When you take men, competent men, out of the scenario, when you take quality men out of the scenario, because the hood, am I allowed to cuss on your channel, brother?
Yeah. You go ahead, brother.
The hood niggas were never taken out. The voice of the hood nigga lived on.
I don't like the N word, but you can.
Okay, the hood Negroes, the hood ninjas,
right,
were allowed to continue on and permeate the culture.
Yes, sir.
And what you start to see is the devaluation of the educated brother. In the 90s, you know, we started to talk about. You started to hear even from the 80s, the roughneck. I need a roughneck, and you started to see this glorification of the thug, even more so than ever before. And there was a time where if you were a school teacher, you were the top of the community ladder, the social echelon. And today, you are looked at as the absolute bottom. Most women would tell you, Dave, would they date a school teacher? Most women would say no because he doesn't make enough money.
Right.
Value, you know, our values have shifted so abruptly.
Right.
So I would absolutely say that from what I've seen in those days, I saw in the 90s, I saw everything on that Freaknik documentary times 10 in multiple places.
Right.
You know, on college campuses and multiple festivals. I mean, that was the norm. You could get that walking along Myrtle Beach, Virginia Beach. You could see the same type of action, depending on Memorial Day weekend.
Right.
That was nothing. But you know, so I see that really leaping forward, and I see what now a lot of women are really. Hopefully, what I hope what comes out of this Freaknik documentary is that a lot of young sisters pay attention and notice what really happens if you're not careful, because now you have all these mothers and these significant people who are now trying to cover it up, because it's going to go one or two ways. Either the young women are going to learn from this scenario, or they're going to normalize it even more, so it won't be a big thing in 20 years when the nurse is twerking in the hospital lobby. You know?
Well, listen. So let me ask you a question before I get to these super chats, and thank you guys for tuning in on tonight. But the value of a woman is powerful for a man of purpose and a man of principle. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Right. And once again, you know, you're part of a famous fraternity, you know, and you know what happened on these college campuses, especially historical black college campuses. We're going to talk about it because I think a lot of it, Dark Gable, is this. Some women, I'm not going to say all, but there are some women that lie to their respective partners or spouses about
who they were and what they did. And what they tried to do now, them being on screen, is going to pull or call their BS. And I think that's what's causing a lot of them to be in a state of fear and perplexity. We're going to get into it in a minute. But in the meantime, shout out to my man. Let me read out these super chats real quick. Can you hear me, brother? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, shout out to my man Gregory Scholar. He said, salute kosher. Just look at how Generation X women exhibit such angry attitudes and complain the most about black men. We're going to talk about that. I appreciate it, brother.
It's a bet, right?
And that's a deal, right? Can you hear that soundboard?
Right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
Yep.
All right. And then also shout out to my man Dusty Nuts for the $20 hitter. he's a fella. Yeah, he's a fellow therapist like you and I too. That's my dog, man, Dusty Nuts. Dusty Nuts said, from the book of Grudges, thine she-heathen has begotten a culture of harlotry and whoremongering. They bow and kneel to the many sticks they pray to. In hopes to be smitten on the forehead and to receive the nectar of their loins. Dustin Nuts a damn fool. He's not but a fool, man. And then also shout out to my man MC Recovery and Wellness. He said the Boogie Woogie Toga Parlor doing the butt and doing some doggy style thug like. Appreciate it, man. And that's Dynamite. But we're gonna get into it, Dark Gable. We're gonna get into it because once again, you were part of a group fraternity. I had a chance to pledge. They begged me to align myself with Alpha Phi Alpha, but I never did for whatever reason. And so once again, the value of a woman is important to a man of purpose and principle. And one of the things, Dark Gable, I think that the liberal media told black women is that they can do what men do, or women in general, they can do what men do, and not understand there's a consequence. And the thing that I found very perplexing is this, Dark Gable. Many of them say the past don't matter. We're going to get into it because the past does matter. If you don't think your past don't matter, ask Bill Cosby. Ask R. Kelly. Ask anybody. But see, when it comes down to men, then the past matters. But when it comes down to them, they'll say, well, your past don't matter. And I find that very hypocritical, Dark Gable. There's so many juxtapose and assume that their past don't matter when it comes down to sexual virtue. There are double standards for men and women. There are things that women can do that men can't do. I promise you, Dark Gable, if a fraternity brother said, when I was in college, I slept with 3 frats. Do you think his past would matter? Yes or no?
If he slept with 3 fraternities?
If he slept with three other homies or slept with dudes in college, would it not matter?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And but on the flip side, if a woman says she has some fun with another woman, it might be, some guys might think it's irreprehensible, but she's not going to get the same stigma as a man. So when people say your past don't matter, your past does matter. The only time your past don't matter is this, and I'm going to explain it to you, Dark Gable. It's when you can come to the table with that person and talk about your past, and that person agree with that past when you've told them everything. You and I both are very intelligent brothers. We got our master's degrees, we got undergraduate degrees. I have multiple degrees, and you're a business owner. When you apply for graduate school, they had to look at your academic past, did they not?
Correct.
When you went to get a house for a loan, they had to look at your financial past, did they not?
Correct.
When anything that's related to a person's value system, they're going to look at your past. But somehow, some of our women women in general get magical thinking and say the past don't matter. But what I notice, Dark Gable, is this. The past don't matter when it pertains to them. But the past does matter when it pertains to you. And what I've learned is this, Dark Gable, is this. A lot of women that say don't judge me for my past, but watch this. They're going to judge you for your future. And I'm going to explain why. A woman look at a man's future earnings potential as an approximation on if she want to be in a relationship. There's a judgment of condemnation and there's a judgment of value clarification. A judgment of condemnation is when you judge somebody and you don't know nothing about them, so you're judging them off cusp. But a judgment, a value clarification, Dark Gable, is this. If you and I decide to be business partners, you're going to look at everything in my portfolio to determine if we are viable business partners. You didn't condemn me, but you're going to judge me based on my portfolio to determine if I'm suitable to be in your network. Am I right or wrong?
Very true.
So why in the hell is it that when it comes down to women, they think men can't judge their past? Because they judge you based on your height. They judge you based on your penis size. They judge you based on many metrics. Am I right or wrong?
Very true.
But for some reason, they think what they did in their past don't matter. And it does matter to a man, especially a masculine man. But for some reason, they'll try to minimize and say, oh, you're being judgmental. Sweetie, you're judgmental. We all judge. It just depends on what you're judging. Judgment of condemnation is totally different than judgment of value clarification. When I went to one of the best schools in the country, they look at all my academic background. And they judge me, and rightfully so, because if you judge somebody, you should judge righteous according to the scripture. But for some reason, modern women, regardless of ethnic hue, white women do the same thing. They'll say, well, don't judge me, not understand that men are wired different. But talk about some of the things that you saw in college. And also what you actually did yourself. You don't have to get too deep into it. But the value of a woman and why virtues matter. I want you to break it down to the audience, but also tell the audience what you saw and did when you were in Greek fraternities. And then also, you and I went to the same high school. Some of the behaviors of women in the 90s when you were in high school as well.
Right. So start with your first question as far as the value. And why it matters is when a man is to invest in his woman. And I believe I'm a traditional man. Mm-hmm. I believe that we're supposed to be the leaders, both spiritually, financially, in all regards. Now, that doesn't say in this modern economy that we don't expect at times our women to have to participate. But I think the ultimate goal for all of us as men is to get to a level where we can take care of the family if our wives cannot, if our wives are not able to participate. And so we are investing. We have more to lose in that regard, financially, and whatever. And for those of us who tried to live right, as you said before, we've been very careful. We've been very cautious. The same reason I didn't hang with certain people. You and I both. I know, we know each other friends. We didn't hang with certain people growing up because we knew what they were into.
Right.
And because we didn't want to get caught up into the drama they were into. So as a black man in America, to be where we are specifically, we had to be very cautious. We don't, because as you mentioned, we don't get the benefit of redemption.
Right.
So once we do it, even now Jay-Z, they still would mention this man is a billionaire at this point. Then put out mad records as a whole business and hire thousands of people. Save so many black people in the community, but he's still being labeled the reform and drug dealer.
Right.
Because they would never let that stigma pass. Mm-hmm. So we know the need to be cautious about our past. So those of us who these women are now saying they want, which is the high value man, we've only gotten here through very cautious means. So why would you now spend your life being cautious only to invest in a woman that's been reckless?
Right.
So, with her past. And so that's what that past does. It's just like, as you mentioned, I got to check your credit report. If you get a car, that car could drive perfectly today. But if that car has ever been in a wreck, you're going to say, even though that car might drive good, it might look good, it was repaired and everything else, you never know what's going to happen under the hood. So just to be on the safe side, I'm going to try to purchase a car with a little bit less of a damaged history.
Right.
Same with our women. You might look good. You might present well. It's a great chance that I won't have anything that'll come up. But just in case, I'm going to try to find somebody that has a little bit less damage under the hood.
Right.
And then the other side of this is, as a protector, we talked about these traditional roles. If somebody comes to my house, somebody disrespects my wife, then they got to see me. I'm gonna have a problem with you disrespecting my lady. Now, if your lady was Sister Slopjaw from college and she done serviced the whole dorm, then there's gonna be a whole lot of guys that's gonna walk up to her and be like, "What's up, Slopjaw? Remember that time?" And so now you got to contend with all of those past ghosts, being individuals you got to now protect, because you're not gonna let no man come up and talk to your wife, and call her name. But that's the reality you have to face when she was not when she was reckless with her past. Now, I do believe in redemption. I believe anything can happen, and it was crazy. I literally just had this conversation with a friend of mine, one of my line brothers actually earlier, and he was saying, you know, as we get older, those things aren't effective. The other thing we gotta think about though is as men, this culture has demeaned us and our role as fathers.
Right.
But as a father, I want to make sure I raise my children with the most moral person around. So I don't want to introduce a person who might introduce loose sexual values to my future daughter or my future son.
Right.
And I hear people say, oh, but what about boys? Y'all tell boys different. I say, I don't. I tell my son to be a better man than me. My son's job on this earth is to be a better man than me. You know, and a lot of times our sisters aren't saying that to our daughters. They're competing with their daughters instead of telling their children to be better than them.
Right.
Because the accountability comes in and say, yeah, I made a lot of mistakes in college.
Right.
I did some real hoish stuff in college.
Right. Right.
This is the damage that it caused my life. But what we do is we now have a culture of everybody telling how fabulous it is, only to find out later that it won't as good as they thought. See, you see all that now with a lot of the former loud and proud hoes talking about like Amber, Kanye's ex, Amber, what's her name? Bald-headed.
Amber Rose.
Amber Rose now saying that, oh, guys don't want to date me because of my past. You think? You know what I'm saying? So now they're having all these difficulties, but they're still gonna be loud and wrong as far as guiding our young ladies into where they go. So we have to be very cautious about that, because to the second part of your question, brother, I've seen some stuff. I can tell you one particular incident.
Hold your point, Dog Gabe. Let me call this super chat real quick before you start, because I know it's gonna be good. So shout out to my man Dustin Nuts again for the 10. He said from the book of Grudges 6:1, and the chorus of she-heathens wailed a woeful chorus to her to have their past stricken from the scrolls. But every eye shall see and every eye shall hear the harlotry for what it is.
Well, damn.
And that's a deal, right?
Thank you, brother, for that. That's a bid, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Got 5 on it.
Yeah, that was pretty heavy.
Right. So go ahead and break it down, man, and explain your point of contention. Go ahead.
So I can tell you what I've seen now brother, the stuff that's on a Freak Neat video, I've seen that at Black Bike, and I got to take a step back, man. If you were I've seen the stuff that I've seen in college, it didn't matter if you were in a fraternity, whether you were playing sports, if you were a basketball player, a football player, wherever you were, if you had a position of some kind of elevation on the college campus, somebody was going to throw that coochie at you, and it could be whatever. I remember one of the first, we called them set-outs back in the day, or they called them trains, and I heard some women say, oh, it's not a train, it's a threesome. Well, it's pretty much a train. But when the first train, especially this scenario, was a train, because it was literally a line of guys in the hallway. I went up to my dorm room, and there was a young lady in one of the rooms, and I saw a line of men standing out in the hallway. The line of brothers walking up. I'm freshmen in college, don't know anything about this life. And it's a line, and it was mostly football players, and they're lined up, ready to take their turn with a young lady on the other side of the door. And they're telling me, hey, man, you get in line, get it. I'm like, nah, I'm pretty sure I don't want this. And even in high school, brother, we would do it. Some of my boys, we had a couple like that in high school. Whenever the boys wanted to get some, we call this girl up and she'd take care of the crew. Now, you and I both know it being in the field for some time that there was a lot of other issues that would drive a woman to that direction. But nevertheless, that's where she was. And so I've seen this. I've been to outside festivals and literally seen women pull their pants down and pleasure themselves in front of boys and outside in the open, wide open in the middle of the street. Seen them pop out like New Orleans, pull their breast out as you're walking down the street in Myrtle Beach. So this is nothing new. This was absolutely the culture back then in the 90s. It was a wild time. It was a wild time. And I think when we're going to look up in a little bit at what's going on now, probably what's saving some of these kids now is they're not going outside the way we did, because they don't do the big festivals. Like, nowadays they're it's all virtual. It's all, behind a computer screen. But back then when we were outdoors, it was all out. It was everywhere. I mean, anytime we went, I could go to Virginia Beach and I see brothers biting women on the ass as they walk down the street, and the women coming back for a second time because they enjoyed it the first time. So it's definitely been out there.
Well, once again, ain't nothing new under the sun. Nothing is new under the sun, Dark Gable. There ain't nothing new under the sun. But we know you were getting it in back in the 90s, man. You and I went to high school together. I was an athlete. I think you played sports, or you were just a bookworm.
Listen, I played, but my scholarship was in music, so I went on a band scholarship. You remember, that's who was paying me, so I went to where I was getting paid.
Right. So we gonna get deep into it, and once again, shout out to my man Dustin Nuts for the 20. Dustin Nuts said the book of merchants and the scales determine the weight of the marketplace, that one Lizzo of a jester's face, clay of 10 barrels of a jester's face, clay will have the heaviness of the darkened heart of a harlot. Shout out to my man Dustin Nuts, and that's a deal, right?
That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
Dustin Nuts crazy. Dustin Nuts, because of your love offering, brother. You're the #1 sponsor of this stream, brother. I appreciate it. You know, Dark Gable, some of the women in this documentary are what I call ratchet bougie, and some of them are from sororities, and they are high profile women. And is it safe to say, in your opinion, Dark Gable, that the reason why some of these women are trying to hide their past is because they lied to their men about feigned virtue, and now that man is about to find out that the woman that he thought was a woman of virtue really was a participant in Generation X culture that led to the modern woman and 304 culture now. What's your take on that?
Listen, absolutely. I can't even be mad at some of those young ladies, because when you think about it, if somebody could take some of your craziest moments and put it on camera, I probably wouldn't want mine seen either. So I'm not necessarily upset with them, but it is a cautionary tale to a lot of our young people now, that, while on one hand we sell this thought process, oh, it's okay. At the end of the day, as a man, if the documentary came out and saw me pulling all these women on the side of the road and whatever, I wouldn't try to hide nothing. You know what I'm saying? I'm walking down the street and women just flocking to me and surrounding me and grabbing all over me. It's different, and we got to stop acting like it's not different. There's a difference.
Right.
There's double standards on all sides.
It's double standards on all sides, right?
You and I do the same crime as our women. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to get less time than we are.
Gonna get less time, right?
They're gonna get if we get divorced, we're gonna more likely have to be the ones to pay child support. At the end of the day, we are sitting here in an environment that is not going to be even. And yes, as a man, I might be okay being seen out here a little bit more reckless with my manhood, but they're supposed to God was precious. The other side of that is we as men are supposed to invest in them. So if I'm going to invest, if I'm going to support, if I'm going to do all these things, why am I out here spending my hard-earned resources on a woman that then gave it up to the whole crew for free? You know what I'm saying? This is not special. If I'm investing in a rare, a precious mineral, if everybody got the same amount of that same mineral, my investment don't mean a damn thing. You know what I'm saying?
It don't mean a damn thing, right?
If everybody had as many diamonds, if diamonds were like granite, we love as much as we love diamonds. If diamonds were as accessible as granite, diamonds would be nothing. We wouldn't care about a diamond. It would be no better than quartz. You know what I'm saying? What makes anything precious is the scarcity of it. So if women want to be valued as precious, as special, then you can't be giving up your sex to everyone. And I see your man Prodigal Son said there are going to be a lot of divorce attorneys rubbing their hands on this documentary. Because, listen, you're right. Because again, I would love to say it's very hard to hold your hand, to hold the whore's hand and hold your head up at the same time.
Right.
And if I see my wife doing sexually promiscuous stuff out in these streets, and now I'm expected to come out and lift her up and raise her up to the world and say, I'm putting this woman on the pedestal.
Right, you can't.
And then I saw a picture earlier today where a group of guys at Freaknik, literally, this girl was bent over, ass cheeks out, showing her, and they were a group of about 7 guys grabbing her different places. She's smiling for the camera as they spread her cheeks to show all of her backside down to what she ate last night. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So now you're on camera on a documentary or whatever. Now this is circulating. You're looking over smiling while guys are literally basically have your whole behind exposed, asshole exposed. And now I'm supposed to walk into church with you next day. And as and kiss you in the mouth. And as this is a hard ass for men.
That's all right. And what they don't understand, Dark Gable, is this. Men by nature are very territorial. Someone say, oh, you're just insecure. It has nothing to do with insecure. You are a frat brother. You dark skinned. I'm sure you can get any woman you want. You're a built dude. So it has nothing to do with a man being insecure, but men don't feel secure about knowing that other objects within their woman, whether it be in her face, her mouth, or her orifices, and what it does, it causes a man to have a level of disdain and disgust. There was a time, even though there ain't nothing new under the sun, folks said what they were doing in the past, we know folks were getting it in. Ain't nothing new under the sun, but it was the level of shame. When you look at women now, Dark Gable, compared to women of the 90s, the Gen X women. Gen X women were getting it in. And I stand on the Gen X women pushed the baton forward. It definitely started in the 70s with the free love movement. But they took it to a whole nother level in the 90s, and we're going to get into it now. And now it's to the point now, there is no shame. It seemed like Gen X, they were doing dirt, but they still had some shame. And the women of the 60s were doing dirt as well. White women lied to our women about being promiscuous with the sexual revolution. Because there was a time sisters didn't do the stuff the white women did. Would you not agree with that?
Absolutely.
Black women were some of the most conservative women in the world back in the past. Black women were very wholesome. Would you agree with that?
Yep. Absolutely.
Right.
And very married. They used to be very married.
Used to be very married, right. And I'm shout out to my man Prodigal Son. He said I can see a lot of divorce attorneys rubbing their hand like Birdman once did. This Freaknik documentary comes out. And what do you think about women that fake virtue to get a man, but then they'll say, well, he cheated on me, but you cheated too if you lied to that man. What's your take on that?
I mean, listen. There's some stuff that I of course I don't agree with it, but you chalk it up to the game. That's why as a man, you need to do your due diligence. There's a level of accountability on us. Hey, listen. I see Dusty Nuts trying to bait me into speaking a difference. Some cats might have the right year, there's the wrong colors on, but we're not gonna get into that, brother Nuts. You know what I'm saying?
Read the super chat out, man. Read the super chat. Go ahead and read it.
And my man Dusty Nuts said, to the brother on the panel, I don't know your frat, but nonetheless, Noop, motherfucker, Noop. And like I said, I mean, that's a cute little organization. We're not going to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? You know, they got the right number on their chest. They just got the wrong colors. We'll
wrong
leave
color.
it there.
Leave
They
it
got the
alone.
wrong colors.
Right.
Which we had a patent on the number. So you
Right.
gotta call my fraternity to get permission
Right.
to use that number. We'll talk about that later, Dusty Nuts. But listen, but overall, man, I look at this scenario where we are right now. I'm sure Brother Nuts can say the same with his frat brothers. You know, when we go out here, a lot of people will love to say it's our culture. No, it's not us. This was going on day one when you go to college.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Day one, and as soon as we hit the campus, we saw this. Like I said, it was football team. It was everywhere. It just made it easy for us. Mm-hmm. We kind of got a leap ahead. It was kind of like we would walk in our suite, and there would be somebody waiting to service us. And I'm not even exaggerating. There would be one such incident, man, really blew my mind. And you and I could talk off camera, but I was going into a room with my fraternity brothers, and young lady, I hear them fussing, and somebody they tell me basically that they take care of this young lady's taking care of everybody. Ask me if I want to go back there. I'm like, nah, wasn't really my thing. Plus, my girl was waiting for me back in the room, so I'm like, oh, I'm good. Let's just play spades. So we were sitting playing spades. About a half hour later, I hear a little bit of arguing, a little commotion. I'm going to make sure everything's okay. One of my line brothers had called the young lady who was taking care of business a hoe. And, as they tell you, hoes always want to treat it like ladies, and ladies always want to be treated like hoes in the bedroom. Right. So you got to treat your hoe like a lady and a lady like in the bedroom. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, she got offended by that statement of being called out her name, rightfully so. She comes out. When she comes out the room, I knew this young lady. I knew her family. I've seen her since she was a little bit younger than me, but I watched her grow up. And I'm looking at her like, wow, I'm going to see her father at church on Sunday. What am I supposed to see? What am I supposed to say to her daddy when I just saw, what I'm saying? When I just saw your daughter servicing the whole crew,
Right.
And so now you fast forward, you would never guess this young lady was doing that back in college. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now fast forward, you see this person now who would look like the first lady of the church, and you see her on camera now doing some of the most nastiest, raunchiest stuff. That's gonna
right.
Yeah, but listen, and here's the sad part though. We're all looking at this now, and we're kind of shocked. We're a little bit riled up, but we have an IG culture. We have an OnlyFans culture that they're willingly putting it out there. So now the same demographic of young ladies between the ages of 18 to 25 are putting the same type of content now that used to be on the streets of Freaknik or Black Bike Week. They are now taking that same ideology and putting it on OnlyFans and Instagram. I mean, it's like at this point, it's why even go pay for porn, because you can go on IG and see just about it. Matter of fact, Twitter allows whole pornography scenes. Mm-hmm. It's insane. Like I'm like, you almost got to keep your kids off Twitter because they have straight up porn on Twitter now, mm-hmm. and girls busting it wide open, and it never goes anywhere. Mm-hmm. So now, and you're gonna see these young men wake up one morning, and that's their mama, and then they're gonna wonder. Here's the other consequence of this. They're gonna wonder down the line why, these ladies are gonna ask, why don't these men respect women? Why would I respect women when I see my own mama having sex with man after man after man? Right. My mom, right. Basically being willing to do whatever for money. Mm-hmm. Why am I going to believe that this woman is going to be faithful to me? She's going to be virtuous. She's going to be responsible. I'm not going to believe in that because I've never seen that. Mm-hmm. So the same way a lot of these women are walking around with daddy issues and saying that we need to be understanding of their daddy issues because their fathers weren't in the home, they're now going to be walking around, boys are going to be walking around with mommy issues because my mama was a hoe. And that's why I would never respect women, because I watched my mom hoe.
Right,
I can tell you some of all that stuff we talking about from the documentary, I've seen it all 10 times over. I got stories for days. Mm-hmm. The most troubling things that I've seen though, bro, has been when I've been in a woman's bed and woke up to her children asking who I was, or is that my daddy? Or being deep in the guts and seeing the baby walk in the room or stand up, and all the mama don't even stop saying, lay back down and go to sleep, and she keeps right on giving me the business. And I'm like, I'm a young man watching the baby watch mama go in. Mama ain't even, she told the boy to go to sleep, and the boy laid down, and I'm like, I sure hope. I couldn't even look over them more. I'm like, I hope that boy will Larry back, they'll cover his eyes with a sleep, because she didn't stop.
She didn't stop, right.
She wouldn't let me stop. You know, and so, you know, when you, and she was Muslim.
Oh, wow.
She was a Muslim sister. You know what I'm saying? So when you see this, the damage it does down the line is so extensive to a young man. And I don't think people really understand that, because we want to view our mothers as the virtuous examples.
Right.
And if your mother is not an example of virtue, we would never trust women.
Right.
It will all be extremely hard, not without the work. And I'm sure you've probably seen that in your practice.
Right.
Deep enough, they've seen their mother do some things, you know?
Yeah, man. You know, it's over identification too. That's why we got so many simps. We got a lot of simps. And, you know, Dark Gable, these simps, man, when they get mad at you, you know, they don't talk things out like you and I did growing up back in the 90s and when we were in high school together. But when these simps get mad at you, they'll say this.
Oh, yeah, put chain on my mom. That be broken mom. Kill some of my mom. Bro, they back. He look like that's on my monkey. That's on my monkey. That's on my monkey.
Yeah, these simps will take your life, Dark Gable. And while they're taking your life, they'll say, oh, my mama. But, you know, there's a new movement, and we're going to get into this thing about Freaknik, because it's got a lot of women shook. And it's got a lot of them shook because they lied to their husbands. And that's why I don't, you know, women are saying, oh, you know, my man cheated. But if you didn't tell that man the truth and you tricked that man into a relationship, you can't say a damn thing. Would you agree with that? Because marriage fraud is real. You can't lie to a man to get him in a relationship and then you say, well, you know, get mad at him or get mad at a man in general. Because men or women should come to the table being honest. But the selective outrage to me, Dark Gable, is appalling. What's good for me is not good for D. And I got a problem with that. My man Gregory Scotland said, Coach, ask your guest a question. Why should a productive black man choose an American black woman when other women from countries, when other women come from intact cultures? What's your take on that? And before you answer, that's a deal, right? Thank you, brother.
Right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Got 5 on it.
Well, listen, that's a heavy question. That's a heavy question. And I let me ask. I've met some very dope sisters over the years. Some sisters who will look at a lot of stuff that's going on, and they have some of the same issues, some of the same concerns. I think what you have to have in our culture is that we got to stop giving attention to the squeaky wheels, because it causes us to really be jaded, all of us. You see, you know, I don't care how good of a man we are, these women nowadays tend to judge you from the bottom 10%. And for us, we tend to judge women by the top 10%. All the women are queens because of the top. But the reality is we're doing a disservice on both sides.
Right.
I believe that a lot of good women are out there, and I don't want to throw them under the bus because of the trash women. However, I think that absolutely them trying to demonize. You see this movement of women who are trying to demonize brothers who are going overseas to find their queen. You know, they're demonizing the passport bros, and I'm like, listen, I don't blame any man who goes overseas, because I'm definitely not ruling that out. You know, if I was to be single again, would I rule out the possibility of going overseas to find my next? Absolutely. Would I love it if I could find somebody that met my criteria and I could relate to them culturally right here in America? Absolutely. But I do see that becoming an ever more difficult, more challenging possibility. The difference that I always do caution, though, sometimes when I see brothers make that bloom, is you can't get caught up in the whole trade culture and thinking and giving them more criteria, more worth than they deserve too. We got to be careful to make sure that we're going to the right places when we meet these women. You know, just because she's walking down the street with a fat ass, don't mean she's worthy of bringing back over here to the States. So
no. I agree.
I've seen some brothers make that mistake. But to your point, brother, when I go to Ghana and I talk to the sisters are like, listen, my job is to be a helpmate. When you go to Ethiopia, you see these other women, they're built to be helpmates. And until, I don't care where you are, unless a woman is really able to be in that space to say, I'm willing to be my man's helpmate. And what's happened is this modern culture has shamed women from seeing the value of being a helpmate. You know what I'm saying? As if that's a negative. There's nothing wrong. As a matter of fact, you should find fulfillment in being a helpmate.
Right.
But that's not what we're given. So I understand the brother's question. I tend to not demonize the entire group. Just like I tell sisters the same thing I would tell them. I was like, I got to eat a little bit of that same cake here. When sisters start talking that mess, I'm like, listen, the majority of brothers are out here doing the right thing. And I still think a lot of sisters did get caught up. And I think what's happened now, there was an overcorrection. And a lot of our sisters are way too materialistic. Culturally, they're very, they don't respect the male and our positioning. So I definitely understand the brother's question and the brother's query. I just said, for me, I've seen both. I have messed over some good women and some good women have messed me over. You know what I'm saying? So I can look back at my past and say, it's about 4 or 5 women that would have made great wives and they're doing great right now.
But I'm gonna challenge your talking point though, but you are a high value man though. You are a high value man. And because you are a high value man, you can equivocate your experience to the average guy. Do you see my point? I see that. Yeah. You're a 6-figure earner. You could potentially have. If I was a single man, you and I both could. I mean, but you and I both are married, and our plight is different. But men in this spaces see this. Dark Gable. This is what they see. Men in these spaces. This is what they see. Because you are out of the fray, you don't really see female nature because you're you're a select brother, and you've had your share of women. I'm sorry, you had your share of women. But to the average Joe, man, they catch hell, man, getting a quality woman, man. They catch a lot of hell. And
I do have to recognize the privilege in that. So I definitely see that point. And you to your point, we do lose sight of that sometimes because it is to a point where I don't have the same challenge, because they do see, this brother making such amount of money, so it's a little bit easier walking into the room and greeting certain people. But to that point, you're absolutely right. That I do think there's a devaluation of the everyday brother, right? And even to the point where they try to demean, and they try to. What was really interesting with the Kevin Samuels situation is they tried to twist it on us to make it seem like it was the men that created this standard. But we're not. Men did not create this standard. It was the ladies who decided that you had to be at a certain place or whatever to get a certain level of respect. Your money had to be in this position to get respect. So I push back on the notion that was us, because I really do think it was women who put that standard out there as far as men, as money, and with regards to men. So, but to your point, yes, I don't have the same, and neither, the brothers who are educated now and got a little bit of money in their pocket don't have the same trouble. Right. And we do have that divide, because I tell sisters all the time, I see a sister, and she might be making a little bit of money. She's like, well, I don't want to date a brother who's driving trucks. I'm like, you know how much money truck drivers make? Right. So at one point we talk about, so I agree with you on that. I'm remiss. Let me take a step back. I agree with that point, that as long as you fit the criteria of what they want, the world is yours. Right. You are probably top 5% earner, highly educated like myself, got good credit. You're a married brother, but if you were a single man, you can have your choices pick of women. And so you tend to get the women because you're a higher tier man.
And so because you're a high tier man, you don't see what men that are average guys or decent guys see. You don't see it. Do you see my point? You don't see it. So are there some good women here? Yes, they are. But they are scattered abroad. They're scattered abroad. They're here, but it's not enough of them. What's your take on that?
That I absolutely agree with. I absolutely agree with that. I think that we have to do a better job of saluting the everyday brother. And and I'm gonna tell you something. This is one of the issues I have with a lot of simps out here right now. A lot of simps want to take that into consideration and say that, oh, okay, well, you need to make more money. You need to do whatever, because at the time they're just trying to go for the women. I got all the women on my side right now because I meet certain criteria. But the reality is, man, to your point, I don't let that shit slide on any regard, because I could fall tomorrow. You can lose some funding, you can lose a job, the IRS can happen, anything can happen, and next thing you know, we're right back in the same position, and our value should not be diminished just because of a paycheck was reduced. Right. And I think what has happened is, because men have made this modern world so convenient, it's been so easy that the value of men has been dramatically reduced. Right. If we go into war right now, guarantee you femininity is going to be on the rise. You know why? Right. Because when they go back to draft, if they go back to drafting individuals and they say, okay, well, if you're going to draft somebody, we can draft, let's draft women too. The minute you go to start drafting women, it's going to be they're going to see the most feminine women in the world. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't want to go out there and do the hard work. See, right now we've allowed women to subsidize manhood. They don't need to wait for daddy to get home to get their oil change to go to Jiffy Lube, where a man is there, and we've given them enough money to think they can do it independently. See, this is all a game. The culture has allowed our women to make just enough money to think that they don't need a man, and therefore the man doesn't have to be in the house. Therefore, there's no family to push back on a lot of this bullshit that we're seeing in our culture. And so, we are seeing just this overall trend of men not being respected unless they make a certain amount of money. And at least they pulled back, because it was getting really out of hand. I don't remember, like a year or two ago, they were talking about, what's the Birkin bag or whatever? You had to be able to buy your woman a Birkin bag. Right. And I'm saying to myself, well, what kind of man, other than a drug dealer or a rapper, is going to go out and buy a $30,000 purse as a prerequisite to get a woman who's nowhere near the woman our grandmothers were? Right, nowhere near. Right. So, meanwhile, you see Consuela and our Hispanic sisters loving their men while they're working on the roof. Right. They're working and doing the plumbing. They're lifting and sweating, and that woman come home and give them a kiss and a meal and thank them for working and providing. Right. But in our culture, if you're working on or if you're working on the garbage truck or a sanitation worker, you're not of value. Not of value, right? You're not of value. And this is what I had to break this down to one of the sisters. And this is why it's important. What you're doing is important. And you need to continue to talk the truth. Oh, no doubt. Kevin Samuels' word, because even though they hated him, a lot of women heard him. Believe it or not, a lot of women heard him, because when they asked brothers like you and me who weren't scared to tell the truth, we told them the truth, because the truth was out there to be heard and discussed. But, I told the young lady, I said, listen, you're making six figures. You're making a provider's salary. So y'all want equality. You go out here, you make salaries that when it was a man making a six-figure salary, we made that salary and will proudly turn around and say, now I can provide for my family. Look at what I can give my family based off of my achievements and my accolades. Where the woman says, look at what I can do for myself. For myself, now let me find some other man out here who can give me even more than what I did for myself. So now that woman is looking for another man while she continues to keep her assets and be the quote unquote boss baby. So we got that idea of being a boss or whatever is really done a number on a lot of people in our culture, male and female, but especially our women, because at the end of the day, unless you got employees, you're not a boss. First, right. Let's get that under, and then a boss is a servant. leadership is about servitude. You serve not only your people, but you serve your organization. But you have these women who have this ideology that everybody now has to serve them because they've achieved a level of success, which is not the case. And men in that same scenario had a duty to go back and give back. But our ladies, unfortunately, are not doing that with the same vigor.
I totally agree. I'm going to ask you a question, and we're going to get deep, but it's going to be a great show. But how did we get here? What happened to the virtues like our grandmothers had? You and I both grew up in the country. We went to the same high school. You was a little younger than me, about 2 years younger, but we grew up together. When you think about your grandmom and also the women of the past, a lot of the men that were farmers supported their women and sent them to school. But now the blue-collar worker and the blue-collar man is mocked and jeered and minimized. And I came up with a term, Dark Gable, called hoflation. And and hoflation, a lot of women, they think they're better than their men. When you look at the level of narcissism in the modern woman compared to what your grandmom and your great-grandmom and your mom was, I think Gen X women played a major role in the precipitation of solipsistic nature and solipsistic behavior, and also the minimization of the blue-collar man. My dad was a blue-collar man, but when my dad was living in modern times, my dad would have been seen as a nobody. And I have great umbrage with that. What's your take on that, brother?
Absolutely. And it's funny, I had that same conversation with a sister, because, of course, she was doing is, well, what about your mama? Would you talk to your mama like that? And so I had to tell him, I said, well, what did your daddy do for a living? He worked at such. I said, do you talk to your daddy that way? Mm-hmm. See, they love to tell us about what about your mama, but they don't think about what about their daddies. A lot of women are asking for men that are better than their own fathers.
Right.
And they'd want to do. They're willing to give less than what their mothers gave. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna put up with what my mama put up with. Okay, well, that's great. Nobody's asked you to do anything, or to demean yourself or whatever. But you're asking as a man for me to do everything your dad did. Well, your mama lived in a trailer. So my daddy provided. My mama ain't never paid a bill, but your mama also lived in a double wide. You want a 5,000 square foot house. You want trips to Santorini. You want the way, you want Prada and Gucci and whatever. You want a lifestyle that you saw on South Fork, which is why left under, when you look at it, and again, this is not to demean or beat down sisters, but overall, our sisters have the lowest net worth of any demographic in the nation. Mm-hmm. So while and the media and our own culture are selling myths to our sisters that have been damaging. For example, the myth that Black women are the most educated group of women in the world is a lie. Statistically, it's not that they're the most educated group. They are the most educated group in relation to their men. Why? Because our Black men have been intentionally demoralized in the public education system. Mm-hmm. But the most by demographic is Asian women, just by population percentage. Asian women are the most educated by ratio, and by numbers, it only makes sense that it would be white women because they're the majority of the women in the nation. So where does this myth come from? And why is this myth permeating our community? Mm-hmm. It's permeating our community because it wants to sell our sisters on this idea that they are better than men.
Right.
And we're so learned. And it's actually doing a disservice because at the end of the day, that net worth for these degrees that are generally lower paying degrees that most of our sisters are getting, the money that these sisters are getting is not on the level of their counterparts. So their net worth is in the negatives.
Right.
But they think they're doing something, but the net worth is in the negative because we are putting the value in the wrong place. These brothers they're overlooking have a higher net worth and making more money. Mm-hmm. But we're not appreciating or valuing that. Mm-hmm. So they're moving the goalposts. So now you see a lot of sisters who would start off by saying, "Oh wait, I need a man who's going to have 6 figures." Okay, well, like I said, I mentioned the truck driver earlier. Truck drivers making 6 figures. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, but they didn't go to college. Who said? Wait, now you're changing the narrative. Now you want them to have college, but Bill Gates didn't go to college, so you don't value Bill Gates. That's different. What's different is the color of the complexion for protection.
Right,
you don't ask
right,
white men that.
Right.
See, our women would go, a lot of our women would go right to our white men and submit to the BS. I had a cousin who submitted to some absolutely bullshit.
right.
And would never submit to that same thing. She would have never been willing to submit to a man with that same list of standards.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But you know, and even she tried to tell me, oh, see, I can't get brothers to act right. And this is why I told her, I said, look, I need you to shut the hell up right now. Because I don't let them go with that shit. I said, the Negroes that you were dating when you were single were drug dealers and thugs. As a matter of fact, you only wanted to be roughneck. They had to wear Timberlands. All those characteristics.
Right.
You said he had to wear Timberlands and then a suit during the money, which is the dumbest damn thing in the world. Because that my footwear somehow determines my worth to these women as a man. I don't like Timbs. Never did. They're uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? So, but they make these stupid ass statements, and then when we go out here, and they overlook the brothers that are actually out here doing the work and being there, and then they accept a lesser white man. You know? Right.
I know what you're talking about, and I saw it, and it's appalling because the average Joe would have never had a chance with that particular person. But because they've been conditioned to think that the white man's ice water is colder, they look past good men over lesser or broke bread over a Henry. High earners, not rich yet. You know, they'll take a broke bread over a Henry. And that's why the passport movement is becoming so powerful, Dark Gable. We're going to get deep into it, man. And you are an author of 2 books. You got 2 books that are written. I'm not going to call it out, but you got 2 books that are written, children's books. And I'm going to contextualize it because many men see their daughters as princesses and their women as queens. But a princess eventually becomes a queen, and the queens of the past from Generation X, Dark Gable, they became 304s. And so we're going to get deep into it. But as we get deep into it, we're about to go down the rabbit hole. When you think about sugar and spice and everything nice, what comes to your mind? What comes to your mind? And before you tell me that, we're about to get into the rabbit hole because we're going to assess, explore, and we're going to collaborate because you and I are both professionals in the mental health profession. And we're going to look at this phenomenon. But in the meantime, guys, as me and Dark Gable get into this show, get the likes up, guys. Thank you.
Have you been distressed or perplexed? Emasculated, a book written by Edward Fields IV. Everything that needs to be known about men in modern time. Listen, men are not complex, they are misunderstood and unappreciated. Learn what men really feel, think, and desire. Also observe their struggle for acceptance, love, and belonging. A must read for every man in this classic book by Edward Fields IV. Emasculated. Go get your copy now. Down the rabbit hole we go. This is the part of the show where we assess, examine, collaborate.
All right, Dark Gable, we're going to get deeper into it. Sugar and spice and everything nice. You wrote a book for children, and I'm not going to call it out once again, but you wrote a book for children, and you talk about the princess complex. Many men tend to see their daughters as innocent and also their women. But how is the princess complex or the princess perception derailing the mental health of men when they finally come to the truth that a lot of these women are not as virtuous as they thought? How does sugar and spice and everything nice paralyze the psyche of the modern man as it relates to female nature?
Well, it's definitely doing damage, and it's also doing damage in regards to accountability. Because when you start, when we're teaching as a culture that automatically women are on this level,
being recorded,
while men are beneath them, then you're automatically we're doing damage to our boys and their overall psyche. I remember the first time I got called, just by nature of my gender. We had a teacher, and I'll tell you her name when we get off the line. But she basically called me. Told me I was trifling. It was high school.
Oh, really?
I'm walking down the hall. One young lady walked up, and and she liked me. I wasn't trying to holler at her, but she walked me to my door, and I came in the classroom, and the girl I was actually dating at the time was in class. So my teacher saw the girl walk me down to my room, and then saw me go and sit and talk to another young lady. I would say, "You trifling, just like my husband, my ex-husband." And I'm sitting there saying, "Lady, I'm 13, 14 years old."
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Whatever your baggage is, but you would never allow in our culture, it would be acceptable for a grown-ass man to tell a teenage girl in high school,
"You're trifling.
Girl, you a trifling asshole, just like my ex-wife."
Right.
That man would have lost his job that day. He would have never fathomed saying such a thing. You know what I'm saying? But to me, as a young black teenager, this is what grown-ass women were telling me. Right. Meanwhile, grown-ass women were filling up on us and trying to have sex even back then. So it was always been a double standard. Now, I absolutely teach my daughter. I'm like, I'm going to put my daughter on the highest pedestal I can find. But I'm going to put my son up there too. And I actually have to fight. I have to fight systems harder for my son. And now, and what has happened in our recent culture, and a lot of our women have came into, they bought into this myth of a black patriarchy, which has not been the case in over, I would say at least 70 years, since probably, before the civil rights movement. Have you seen a true black patriarchy in America? And even then, it was a beholden patriarchy. So it was only a conditional. It was a patriarchy within a microcosm of a minority. Right.
It was never a true patriarchy. It was a quasi-patriarchy at the meso and at the micro level. But when it came down to policy making, it was never a true bona fide patriarchy. It had some in my mind, it had some patriarchal underpinnings, but it was never a true patriarchy in a true sense compared to other cultures.
Right, exactly. I mean, there were definitely some times where, hearing back our sisters, because I've my grandmothers, I've heard some stories. I've heard about, especially one of my grandfathers, one of my grandfathers won't shit. One of them was a man amongst men, one of them won't shit. And when I say that, I mean, he didn't work. My grandmother was a damn near saint and was doing everything. My grandfather wouldn't work, and so on the other side, my other grandfather wouldn't let nobody work. He was like, "Nah, I'm gonna take care of my family." Even when he was paralyzed, he did. So I've seen both extremes. So I know a lot of times our grandmothers have really dealt with some stuff, and there wasn't a lot of protection for them back there in those days. But we're long gone from those days. Now we got generation women of this era claiming oppression that would belong to their great grandmothers. Right. I can't even say their grandmothers. I can't even say our women, because right now women in our generation are not grandmothers. So it wasn't the case with the women of our generation. It wasn't necessarily the case with our mothers. Our mothers, men, our father's generation, men would come home working in the factory, giving their whole checks to their wives. You look on the way to the black family. That's when you saw the rise of the quote black feminist icon. This woman who came in, talked to her husband any kind of way. You saw the Weezy Jefferson demean her husband on television. With the Good Times, your Florida Evans basically ruling her family into poverty, willing her family into poverty, to mean James Evans, and then end up marrying a slick hustler, down the line. I mean, and that's what we were seeing even in our media. So in our generation and the generation prior, we don't have that. There was no suppression of the female thought process. And then you also there had to be a level of accountability in that. They said, well, in order to get in certain jobs, you had to be willing to do X or Y.
But I'm gonna challenge your talking point, and I love your perspective. You're not both a mental health professional. You are an owner. But I'm gonna challenge your talking point. You talked about the malfeasance of men in the past, and there were some men that did malfeasance, but we don't look at what the culprit of that malfeasance was, and I'm gonna explain it. There's a such thing, Dark Gable, called healthy coping and negative coping. A lot of men that were called boys can get jobs or diminish as it relates to their masculinity. Sometimes, not only did they drink, they cope by drinking, they cope through domestic violence, and they also cope through having sex with women outside the relationship. But watch this, Dark Gable. What those black men did, even though we had a double trauma, we had the trauma and the burden of being black men, but also the drama of sociological issues of being aggrandized in a culture that more or less venerated redlining and racial white supremacy. But we don't talk about the traumas of why Granddad did what he did. We only look at the manifest behaviors of what Granddad did, but we don't look at what caused Granddad, Dark Gable, to more or less pathologize bad behavior that was manifest and womanizing. Because the same thing we accuse Granddad of, white men were doing the same thing. Do you see my point?
Absolutely.
But we tend to minimize why they did those behaviors. Black women are talking about their trauma, but you don't understand the trauma that Granddad and great-great-granddad had. When you called a boy, when you're not given economic opportunity to take care of your family, that's very damaging to a man. And black men, many of them, they can talk about the bad that they did. They still sent their women to schools while they read on the third grade levels and more or less stayed back and worked on the farm while sending their woman to school. Talk to the people.
Listen, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I've seen both sides of that too. Mm-hmm. You have men who work their ass off to send their children, if not their wives, but definitely their children to school. So I agree with you there. But I have to stay to some degree firm on yes, I agree with the why. We know the why happened, but it happened, and so trauma begets trauma. So because our grandfathers might did certain things, that they traumatized our wives, our mothers, and our mothers might have used that trauma to raise our sisters and our brothers. You know what I'm saying? Us, and so. That's why I agree with you that we have not fully explored or really given credence to the level of trauma that our men had. I'm just speaking to, because that is absolutely why. I'm just saying as to why it's kind of like if you have a child who's being abused, like let's go with R. Kelly, right? R. Kelly, he was an abused child, sexually abused as a child. Now, we can't allow R. Kelly to get away with molesting young girls, even though he was molested as a child. You follow me? So I agree with what you're saying, in that we know that our fathers endured traumas. Our great-grandfathers, our grandfathers, our fathers endured traumas that we don't even know about. Most of them because they were forced into a pathology of saying, I have to be strong and silent.
Right.
So I can't even speak about what I've endured, because if I even speak about it, I'm less than a man.
Right.
So they don't talk about what they've been through. And I think that's one of the blessings about where we are in the culture, because men are now, I don't know if we're being, so much of us being given a voice, but we're taking the voice and we're pushing and we're speaking. And that's what's really triggering a lot of women. They don't really want to hear, they really don't want to hear about our perspectives, our feelings. A lot of women aren't even capable of understanding our emotional needs, and because nobody has ever told them that our emotions were important. Even when they started talking recently about, you got to be so, we need our men to be more emotionally centered. And I said, don't tell men to be emotionally centered unless you're going to tell women to be a safe place to land.
Right.
you gotta make sure that we're giving a safe place to land
right.
before we say that we're going to open up emotionally, because most of our women aren't ready to receive our emotional our emotions. So
shout out to my go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Shout out to my man Prodigal Son 75 for the $5 super chat. He says, because black women have been trained to view Brad and Dylan as white Jesus on planet Earth, therefore any standards they have disappears. And I agree with him on that, and that's we're dynamite for that.
Person.
And because what he's saying is very true.
Because you are talking to kid a dynamite. You're dynamite.
Right. So I'm gonna bring this thing up, Dark Gable. I'm gonna bring it up, and we're gonna get into it.
So hopefully.
So, Dark Gable, before we get into this this diatribe, man, about Freaknik, we're gonna get into it. I want you to talk about the princess culture and how we have been more or less mesmerized by the princess. We've been mesmerized by thinking women are sugar and spice and everything nice, only to come to the reality that they're just human. That's neither good nor bad. But for some reason, we thought women were these virtuous icons like maybe your grandmother and your great-great-grandmother were. Because back then, most of the women were virgins when they got married. But when men find out that the women are less virtuous, that it does something to the psyche of a man. Talk about sugar and spice and everything nice and how it impacts the mental wellness of a man. And then we're going to get into this clip.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with understanding like that part of saying that women are this, men are that. Is been terrible, because we taught our boys, we're teaching our boys from the time they can walk to school that all men are dogs. There's actually a research that and it's doing now even a bigger psyche, because we're training even our own people how to view our boys. It's not that I have a problem with saying that our women are princesses, but you can't say all women are queens, all boys are dogs. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be a queen, then you got to make sure that the opposite of a queen is a king. Unless you really treat our boys like princesses and kings, we can't go back and have one half of the royal family. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Understand that the only reason there is a royalty is because men have gone out and died in wars and risked their lives for the monarch. So a man has to be willing to stand up in order to make a queen a queen. You know what I'm saying? Without strong men, there's no such thing as a queen. Period of point. But our culture is not pushing that narrative. We're saying, oh, girls are born virtuous and our boys are dogs by nature. And then you have a lot of our older brothers who are co-signing this, because and I'll say this: you have guys like Steve Harvey, right? I'm not trying to knock Steve Harvey, because I think we have a tendency to beat this man up, but we don't understand this brother is a baby boomer. This brother comes from a generation where men could walk out their house with no cell phone and be gone for hours and days. Like my uncles would go away for a day or two and couldn't nobody call him, and they better not bother him wherever he was. He was where he is. Mm-hmm. So it's a different era which he speaks on. Mm-hmm. But what he's speaking about, his perspective coming from his era, is no longer meaningful for this generation. This generation, things are running a lot differently. You got to look at how the culture is looking at when you say I'm a princess, because the counter is the boys are dogs. I think that's more detrimental. It's not the royal treatment we give our girls. It's the fact that it's countered by demonization of our boys. You know what I'm saying? So my daughter, I believe, I've been telling my daughter she's a princess since birth.
Right.
But my son is also a prince.
Right.
And I go out and I demand that they treat my son a certain way. I demand that the schools treat my son a certain kind of way. Mm-hmm. Research has shown that boys as early as Black boys specifically, I don't know if you saw, it was the eye movement test. They gave a group of researchers the charge to go into the room. It was preschool teachers. They said one of these students, it was a mix, it was Black girls, white girls, Black boys, white boys, few Asian kids mixed in, right? They said one of these kids is a problem. We want you to watch this kid and make sure he doesn't do anything to hurt the other children. where do you think most of the eyes automatically zeroed in on?
Mm-hmm.
The black boy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the black boy became the most watched individual in the classroom by every demographic, by black women, by white women, by black men, by all teachers. It was the black boy was being watched. And we know most of the teachers are 85% what? Women.
Mm-hmm.
So by the teachers, the black boy was automatically being watched. The reality of the research project was that nobody was actually misbehaving. All the children were just being children, but they armed them with the preconceived notion, and everybody followed up with it. So that's what happens when you demonize the boys.
Mm-hmm.
And so because this whole idea that black women are queens and goddesses, and that only matters in the black community.
Mm-hmm.
You think white men are going out here tomorrow saying, "Oh my gosh, you think these black women are queens? These black women are goddesses."
Right.
Nobody is co-signing black female royalty except for black people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? White folks don't believe in this shit. Asians don't believe in it. They're going through. Matter of fact, half of them are laughing because our women are saying they're royalty, but then they're twerking on tables at restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so they're making a mockery of our women everywhere they go. The only way what our women are now demanding is that black men bow down. Then nobody else is bowing down to black women, and black women aren't demanding that anybody else bows down to them but black men.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem that comes into this old ideology of princess culture, is because it feeds an ego for narcissistic women to think that their men should bow down to them. But understand that their men bowing down to them means that the only threat to white supremacy is now subservient to the very women they're bound to protect.
Right.
And so, so therefore, women who are pushing this narrative are actually becoming agents of white supremacy, because they're demanding that the men worship them instead of the men being protectors and building. And movies like The Woman King are coming out. The media is jumping all over this.
Right.
The Woman King was the biggest crock of historical bullshit that I've ever seen on television. They took a warring slave catching tribe, and I'm getting tired of all these part-time weekend historians trying to make an excuse for African slave traders, when the reality was it was greed, and they were trying to get silver. And I've been to Africa, I've talked to tribes, and I know that some of them just wanted that money. They looked at it as a status symbol. White men would have never had black slaves if it wasn't for black compliance. So in the movie, they took a warring, compliant, complicit black tribe and made them, and they became slave catchers. And now we made them heroes because it made the women look like heroes.
Right.
Those women in that movie were actually slave catchers. They actually had a pretty terrible record too, as far as they lost every battle they won. The homemade by nature would take they just put warriors out. They just took bodies on the battlefield. They became overwhelming because they put everybody in the war, women, children, whatever. And so it was so many bodies on the battlefield, but they were pretty terrible strategists in war. They weren't great warriors. But of course, on TV, you see these women beating their men down in battle, whatever. And the reality was, it was women being forced into battle in a position that they were not naturally members of. But it fits white supremacy's narrative in order to make black men beholden to their women. You look at even you look at Black Panther, which should have been one of the most powerful black cartoon characters, and the first movie, when Chadwick Boseman was alive, you saw the Dahomey being better warriors than Black Panther. And then on the second one, they took the Black Panther completely out. They refused to replace Chadwick Boseman. They made his wife a single mother, and then now he's and now we have this other scenario where it was a chick flick, and Marvel can't even move merchandise because guess what? Chicks don't buy superhero costumes.
They don't.
So they can't even move Black Panther merchandise. So they probably just put an end to the whole franchise. We might not ever see another Black Panther. Why? Because they tried to force you would have never seen Supergirl, no matter how great Superman was, no matter how much they loved, whoever the character was playing Superman. They could have had Tom Hanks, one of the most beloved white men in the planet. They could have made him Superman. You would have never seen them kill off Superman in regards to in order to have Superwoman. But you'll see that with our community. Mm-hmm. And I would watch us go along with that stupidity was depressing, because what they realize is that visual of Black excellence that our boys have seen, they just wiped it off. And anytime you see strong manhood or strong Black masculinity, it becomes the system's biggest goal to destroy it. And our women, because if we feed in their ego, sometimes some of our women, not all, because we're feeding some of our women's ego, they are complicit with this.
Right.
They become complicit in this.
I agree.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to ever co-sign a Black male Barbie that's going to take out a little Barbie doll for Black girls, because Black mm-hmm. girls didn't see their exes. Mm-hmm. And nor am I going to co-sign them under this totally taking away a symbol of Black male dominance to support this myth of Black female superiority, because we're mm-hmm. in this boat together. Neither one is superior to the other. Mm-hmm. We're yin and yang. And until we understand that, we're going to forever fail. And
there was a time we understood that, Black Gable. There was a time we understood it, but somehow things have gotten lost in translation. Shout out to my man MC Recover for the $2 super sticker.
Hello,
and you are Dynamite.
You got
we're going to get into it. We're going to get deeper into it. I got another guest coming on. We're going to put this down. But I want you to let this ruminate while we explore these videos. Shanita Roughneck, you were a frat in the past, so you know about roughnecks. She can't pair bond. And we're going to also talk about the fake virtue once again that's causing a lot of these women to be trembling in their boots. So let's look at it. We're going to look at the clip, and then we're going to break this thing down, brother. Hold tight.
Okay with being recorded out there. So hopefully that worked to my benefit, but you never know. You never know. So the only thing I got is, if you see your girl in the documentary, hey man, at least I'm fully clothed. At least all my clothes is on. That's all I got. That's the best I got. But yeah, y'all, they about to put our business out in the street. Some of us might be on TV. So get your parental controls together. And I don't know, y'all.
Hattie Mae, girl, you got Hulu. Girl, I'm gonna need you to tap into Hulu, girl. They got us. Yeah, girl, they got us. Freak me. Yeah, girl, they got us. Lord Jesus, all our secrets gonna be out there, girl. Yeah, girl, your kids got Hulu. Oh, Lord Jesus, have mercy. They got us, girl. I don't even know what to do at this point. They wrong for this girl. They gonna have to do something about this girl.
Dog Gable, why are they so terrified? And what percentage of women would you say fake virtue? They fake feminine virtue, in your opinion? We're going to get back into
it. Listen, because they want to be treated, a lot of them are worried because they understand that the treatment that they receive from men is based off their virtue. They know virtue is a tribute to worth. The same way as you and I as men, if we made $25,000 a year, these same women that claim we love us wouldn't even look at us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, and that is because that is a double standard, because if we saw a woman, if she was pretty and she had all the qualities we want, and she only made $25,000 a year, we would still spend time and get to know that woman, mm-hmm. because she at least makes enough money to take care of herself. So I got the house, I got the, cool. As long as you're willing to follow my mission and my plan and be what I need, you can make $25,000. Mm-hmm. We could never make $25,000 and be respected in our homes. Right. And so the counter to this is that men of a certain value, we want women men of a certain value want women of a certain virtue. So these women who now understand that to get the man that they want, they have to have a certain level of virtue, just like the men know that we got to have a certain level of value. And they understand that this documentary is going to tear down their home or the myth that they built up, or it's going to reduce their value if they're still out here looking for a man in an already difficult market. And again, all of them are looking for the top 10% of all men.
Mm-hmm.
So they understand. And this also proves that all this bullshit that a lot of these women are talking about, oh, well, we are out here and they know it's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, they're scared of this documentary, and they're scared of this documentary because they know that this documentary is absolutely, that this idea that it does not matter what a woman does is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, they're scared, brother. They're scared. I mean, I would be scared if I was them.
Yeah. And, somebody talked about divorces. Can you imagine if you thought you had a wholesome woman, but she was up there dropping it like it's hot, and guys grabbing all over your woman? Do you think, would you have divorced that woman if she told you or tried to sell you the image that she was a virtuous woman? We're going to get back into the video.
I'm not saying I would necessarily divorce her, but it would certainly be tempting. I don't know if I would divorce her. It would depend. It would depend, of course, on what I saw her do.
Right.
Now, if she was the woman that I saw 7 guys spreading her butt cheeks open and literally showing her entire anal cavity, if there was that woman, I'll send you the picture after we get offline, brother. I'm not Mr. Beat. This is a freak neat pic.
Right.
If she was that woman, then there's no way I could walk holding her hand.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I
Can't do it.
I could not do it. Mm-hmm. Now, if she was one of the girls walking around in a bikini, she's young, whatever. Because I do know you also have, on the converse, you have girls going wild. And these girls were doing a lot more than the chicks at Freak. That's for sure. But, they're also of that culture. Black culture is different. And these white women are actually not talking the same stupidity that a lot of our sisters are talking either. Mm-hmm. These white, we think all of our white women out here living a pampered life. These white women in my neighborhood, the main ones mowing the grass. So they're not the pampered princesses that we necessarily have in our community. So, yeah, I mean, brother, they got to be nervous. They got to be nervous. And then, honestly, we know that we don't want our children to see that. We don't want our children to see that. Nobody wants to see the children walking around and seeing their mama being fingered on the middle of the street in Atlanta. And that's the kind of stuff was going on, brother. I've seen it. I've seen women, on all fours, on their knees, giving oral in the middle of parties.
Wow. And listen, Dark Gable. You are of a famous fraternity, so you're a frat brother, so you know what goes down. But do you sometimes when you look at Facebook, man, and you see these guys all booed up with their woman, and they all booed up with a woman and think they got a quality woman, and and then you remember what they did when they were in college. What be going through your mind, man, when you see this, man? Being a frat, what be going on in your mind when you see these goofy guys holding a woman's hand and being, and hugged up on her, kissed on the forehead and in the mouth, and you realize what the frat and what the football team did to her when you were in college?
Brother, I mean, the first thing I think, it can't be me. But more power to the brother who can more power to him if he can take it. But it couldn't be me. I mean, and actually, MC Recovery Relapse, good point, bro. Most of the time we wouldn't even recognize those girls half the time from college. So, no, not to be that crass with it, but yeah, we definitely wouldn't recognize a lot of them.
Right.
I mean, yeah, but it is tough, bro. I mean, I'm telling you, I could not. I can tell you right now that I don't give a damn how much they try to shame us as men. There's no way that I can look at my woman on busting wide open in the middle of the street and then hold her hand in church.
No, neither can I. Right. I can't do it either. I can't do it either.
It would definitely cause me to step away, and because here's the deal. I guarantee you, in every one of those situations, that man has looked at some situations sideways. He's heard her say some things in the past. He was like, you know what? I don't know about this chick. I don't know. That's a little suspect. He gonna think about everything she said, every move she made is gonna play his mind whether he wants to or not.
Right.
This brother gonna be thinking about that. Oh man, that dude that walked up and smiled at her at homecoming whether he smiling at my woman or whether he laughing at my dumb ass for walking around campus.
Right. And you know what, Dark Gable, one of the things that men can't stand is that song by Teddy Pendergrass back in the 70s. And Teddy said, the whole world laughing at me, silly fool. You remember that song by Teddy Pendergrass?
Yeah.
The whole world laughing at me, silly fool. Shout out to my man MC covering Wellness for the 5. He said, we're not going to recognize them, especially if they turn into Big Shorty. Rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you, sir. We'll get back into the video on Dark Gable. We'll continue to break this down.
You're dynamite! They gonna have to do something about it. They taking it too far, girl. Yeah. Girl, yeah. I don't know what to tell you, but girl, call me when you figure it out. Call me, girl, when you figure it out, girl. All right, girl. All right. Yeah. Okay.
So I got it. I can flown it.
It's a party atmosphere. It's just kind of like being at a ball game. Once everything gets going and you're walking around naked and you get grabbed, don't come crying at the end and say, oh, well, I didn't know I was going to get raped. Or I didn't know I was going to get fumbled.
You can't say that because the sister's walking around down here showing a lot of her body that she is asking to be raped. That is just her saying that she is showing her body. She is a beautiful black woman who is taking pride in herself. She has it, so she can show it.
The bottom line is when
flesh. Now, I would not grab your body, but there are people that will. That will, right. So you should dress appropriately.
I was in that statement because
stepping, I feel like the guy. I got them looking like why. I never doubted me why. I never doubted my guys. You know you in it for win. I stand on 10, you on 10. I don't have friends of a friend. Only the fan of the kin. Only my wife and my kids. That's all I needed to win. Now I only trust my true friends. Had to cut off my loose ends. You know I win if you win. You know you win if I win. I swipe that cash, don't fold. I swipe my bank on gold. Don't think that I've been dumb. I spend like I've been broke. Yeah. None of my cash can fold. None of my calls are gold. Digital dash on hold. None of my cash can fold. None of my calls are gold. Digital dash on gold. Cash digital. The dash digital. Go. Digital. Digital.
All right, Dark Gable, this behavior is going digital. This behavior is going digital, man. And do you think there's going to be a backlash with some of these women trying to use Me Too as a way to silence these men, even though the statute of limitation has expired?
Oh, listen, they've already started trying. I've seen the memes going around like, yeah, you think this video going to expose your mamas, but it's going to expose your granddaddies or daddies for being sexual predators, your uncles. And listen, they're definitely going to try because they tried, and this is the problem even with the Bill Cosby references, is they do all of that out of context of culture. Cultures have shifted, cultures have evolved. Our great-grandfathers were married, and our great-grandfathers might have been 25, our great-grandmothers might have been 14, and that was the norm.
That was the norm, right.
And so, Freaknik, brother, it was the norm of the time. The things were different.
Right.
Now, going forward, as a culture, we would hope we're evolving and we're becoming bigger. And the young brother in the video was right. Just because a woman could walk down Greenville Boulevard right now, or be rocking a crab tree in Raleigh and have on a 2-piece bikini, and nobody should be saying, "I'm gonna walk up and rape that woman because she has on a bikini." However, we also have to understand that is the ideal. And as a father, I'm not raising my child up to only understand ideals. I'm also going to raise my child up to understand the reality. And the reality is that might sound good. They should not touch you no matter what. But if you know there's 700 horny brothers walking down the street and you're going to walk down with your ass out, then there's a good chance that 700 horny teenage and young men are going to try to touch something along the way.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, no, we should not. I don't want to believe in the notion or only overly accept the notion that you're gonna, you get what you get. But you have to also understand that if you wear certain things in certain places, you know what I'm saying. And it was funny. Women know that. Women know that because that's why if you're a man and you got some considerable endowment,
and you wear some gray sweatpants, these same women that's going to talk about it shouldn't matter what I wear, respect me, are going to tell you to go home and change because they don't want you walking around showing your meat prints. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's the same concept. See, these women are not dumb. They're very smart.
Yeah, they know right from wrong.
They know right from wrong, and they know it, and they can recognize it with us, which is why your woman would probably tell you, don't wear those gray sweatpants out the house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or go put some drawers on. Now, if we want to make, if we're going to make nipple prints popular and camel toe proper, then it's fine. Let me get my man, out and walk around with meat print. Let me give up some meat prints out here. But they know better. They know that's not appropriate. And what a lot of women aren't going for, they're not going for equality. They're going for dominance.
Right.
So we're in a position right now where we want to dominate and not necessarily be equal to, because equality would tell you that unless you're comfortable with your men going out wearing whatever, you don't wear whatever. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We know clothing matters. We know that if I go out right now and I put on a suit and I go to the bank, if I go to certain settings, your woman's going to want you to wear the right clothing. Mm-hmm. She wants you to wear a suit. But yet, when it comes down to what they wear in certain situations, they want to act like they're going to get treated the same way no matter what they have on. That's not the truth. Mm-hmm. You're not saying they put on dress and risque is going to make you a slut. Mm-hmm. But it definitely means that you have on a slut's uniform. Mm-hmm. If I go out and put on a police outfit, I can't be mad when people run up to me and ask me for help, thinking I'm a police officer. And the same thing, if you put on a uniform of a loose woman, you can't be upset when people treat you like you look. Mm-hmm. So I don't necessarily. I absolutely, let me say 100% believe that just because a woman wears certain outfits does not mean that a men get the right to touch them a certain kind of way. Right. But as a father, I'm teaching my daughter that there's some things you don't wear to certain places. If you're at the beach, wear your bikini. If you're walking down Main Street, don't walk around wearing a bikini, especially in a group of 1,000 horny dudes, and be respectful. See, queen behavior is responsible behavior. Mm-hmm. I can't call myself a king while doing the actions and the works of a peasant. Right. But we have a generation of women who want to be treated like queens while they act less than queenly behavior. Mm-hmm. So, I definitely think that you have to look at what you wear.
Well, it's called taxation without representation. And that's what you see, Dark Gable, the most. Hold tight. Let's get back into it. Yeah.
The cash is digital. The dash is digital. Run it up. Digital. Living my truth, no tricks. I'm just trying to feed my kids. I'm just trying to keep my way. I'm just trying to live my life while we get rich. Mind my biz. Money gon' come, some go. Man, if you know, you know. I've been through highs and lows. Here for the ride, I go. Slide and roll. Up and down, but I get up. The numbers crunching, no sit-ups. I grew up and got dripped up. Purple label, my get up. That's 101, not a run and done. Month to month, and there's more to come. I told Cushy, let's run it up. Now it's millions on millions. Yeah, none of my cash can fold. None of my cars are gold. Digital dash on hold. None of my cash can fold. None of my cars are gold. Digital dash on gold. Cash is digital. The dash is digital. Go. Digital. The cash is digital. The dash is digital. Run it up. Digital.
Now, Dark Gable, we came from a generation, you and I came from the 90s, when the out-of-wedlock rate was one of the highest in human history. Women now not having as many babies out of wedlock, I guess, in their teens. But when you look at Gen X women now compared to the modern woman, because I do believe the Gen X women passed the baton to create the current modern woman, what do you see as the biggest difference in Gen X women when you and I were in high school and in college compared to the current modern woman where she have no shame at all?
The biggest difference probably would be just the acceptability of the behaviors. You know, there was a different level when we were young. There was a different expectation of modesty. You were expected to handle yourselves a little bit different then than we are today. You know, and today we're saying that, you know, I expect our women to that now everything is okay. Everything is okay. You know, where, you know, even down to our homosexual brothers, and we know some brothers who were in the closet back in the day, but they reacted a certain way. Now, I'm not saying that brothers need to be in the closet. I was having a conversation with a young gay brother the other day, man, and I'm like, I was saluting him because he even though he was obviously gay, he was conducting himself as a man, even though he obviously, looking at him, he was, and you know, when we had a conversation, he understood that his allegiance needed to be to the Black community. So I say all that to say that, you know, a lot of our women have to be understanding they have allegiance to our culture and to our people, and they have to conduct themselves in that manner, because at the end of the day, the biggest thing that we all have to worry about is the advancement of our own culture. That's one of the reasons why I'm not really on the bandwagon. I'm saying we're going to go outside the culture, and you know, because I'm committed to healing the culture here. That doesn't mean that I judge any brother that goes elsewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
I believe that the culture, you know, and that's the difference. I absolutely get when a brother says, "Hey, man, I got to do some things differently. I got to go," brother. I get it. I just know my calling is different to me, and I absolutely have missed. I've actually dealt with some absolute amazing sisters along the way. But like you said, you know, I might have access to a different group of women, or had, you know, and I understand that a lot of times this is where you are. Just like I tell sisters in Cali, they be like, "Oh, brothers over here don't like dark-skinned women." I'm like, bring that ass to the South. We love dark-skinned women down here. But in Cali, brothers don't. So, you know, you got to kind of go where your market is. And I think that's another thing a lot of women have to understand too, is that when they're complaining about men, they have to understand that they're not rare. We're the rarity. Good men are the rarity now. And so that they have to kind of come where we are. You can't be in the areas where we are. You can't go, just like I tell you, you can't find a virtuous, you can't go to the club looking for a virtuous woman.
I'm gonna challenge your talking point real quick. Okay. And I love your insight, but I do like challenge your talking point. Jesus said you can't take new wine and put it into old wineskin. You and I both are professionals. The system is broken. I think it's very noble of you to want to save a broken system, but it's too broken. It has to be broken down and rebuilt back again. And I'm gonna tell you why. Frederick Douglass, Dark Gable, said this. He said it better than me. He said that power never conceded to anything without a struggle. It never have and it never will. When you give the power to your women or to our women, then you can't build a new system unless the Black man is subjugated under the foot of the woman. So until the women give the power back and submit under the authority of the righteous men, I'm not talking about these dusty men, but I'm talking about righteous men, then you can't save it. You cannot save a broken system. And then once again, as I said before, you are a top 5% type brother. You have unlimited options. So you see it through the worldview of your anecdotal experience. But to the average guy and to the working class man, they understand and realize that you can't change it. It's broken. It's called entropy. It's called relationship entropy. And that basically means is that the relationships have broken down to a very minuscule element, to the point it has to be broken down and rebuilt back up again in order for it to become even a modicum of what it was in the past.
Right. I agree with you to a degree. I agree with you. I mean, for the most part, I agree with you. But I also said that again, there are women right now who will listen to the show and agree with everything you say. Now they're harder to find.
Right.
And maybe
they're hard to find.
Opportunity. Maybe that's an opportunity for some enterprising young brother. Maybe that's an app. You know what I'm saying? Well, we could say, you know, traditionallove.com or something. Maybe that's an opportunity out here where we can put those values out here. I just say, well, the problem comes into us as men. we have to be more firm to our boundaries. Because if we say, if men today say, you know what, we're not dealing with it, and I agree with you, keep going. Don't care what they say. They go, oh, you men, y'all ain't. Because I've heard it. I've already seen the podcast trashing brothers who go overseas. I tell brothers, don't worry about that. Keep doing what makes you happy. Now, if you're a black man and you want to go overseas, you want to get a woman, I still say there are plenty of. I don't see you have to go outside. I'm a black man. I believe you can find a black woman. She doesn't have to be in America if you don't want to do an American, traditional American woman. But you could definitely absolutely go into other cultures and find a sister.
Right.
And bring that sister home.
Right.
Now, do that. Keep going. Do it enough, and the women here are going to wake up and realize that, wait a minute, we're not going to keep letting these Ethiopian women take our men. We're not going to keep letting these Ghanaian women take our men. We're not going to keep letting these South African women take our men. Or these brothers going over here, because we have never been the villain that they try to make us out to be. If anything, black men have been the least patriarchal of any man in America, because we have had to accept our women working for a long time. So for our women, it's almost a slap in the face for trying to lump us in with this old patriarchal system, where most of us would submit to Big Mama anyway. Most of us come from matriarchal households. Most of us accept things that no other culture of men would accept.
I totally agree.
They try this, some of the shit that they do with us, with white men, and white men are going to bring them a hill real quick, or they're going to be gone. Period, point blank. They don't try this stuff with the Hispanic brothers. They don't come out here trying to dominate. They come out and try to dominate us. And so it needs to be us. We need to stay firm. The minute which means we got to be diligent with disrespect. We got to cut it the minute the disrespect comes. We can't let ourselves be disrespected or devalued in any regard, because we have to be the keepers of the culture at this point. So I say to us that we need to go out and continue to find those women. And brothers, if y'all go out there and you find a sister, I can tell you right now, there's a nice development in Kumasi in Ghana. Go out there and find your queen. Go out there and find, in Colombia or Brazil, they a little lighter, but they still black. They all count. Find whatever works for you. And then I think eventually our sisters will pick up on the same way right now. Sisters don't, I tell our women, you dictate what men become, because we're going to be whatever it takes to get them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So especially when we're young, if all we got access to is American women, then whatever American black women ask for is what we're going to become. If I got to wear a gold chain to get a black woman, if I'm 18 years old, then I'm going to ask my mom and daddy for a gold chain. That's what we do. Conversely, they're going to have to flip this, because since my son went to school, he's had a young white woman who has been chasing him since he's been in school. Right. Mamas are bringing their white daughters over to my son, introducing him, and that's fine. But you know why? Because they're looking at my son's value and his character. They say, this boy is going to be something one day. Meanwhile, our young sisters are looking for the guy with the best sneakers, the coolest kid in school. They want that guy. But our white girls are out here already zeroing in. My son is in the robotics and electronics, and he's a smart kid. He's a leader. He's in the student government. They're looking at the potential of my son and saying, that's what you need to find. You know what I'm saying? Right now, and I used to feel some kind of way about that with my child. I'm like, listen, brother, don't you have some young black women in school that you can holler at? That's how I talked to my son. And he said, Dad, right now, all of them so ghetto. He said, just come look at me. He went into the school, and every one of the young ladies were not on the same level.
Hold tight, Dark Game.
I'm laughing at that comment too, Brother Turner.
Hold tight. Shout out to my man James Turner. He said, I can't imagine watching the documentary and seeing a pic of a guy smiling while squeezing my girl's ass. Women, what comes around goes around, and that's on Freaknik 304.
That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Got 5 on it.
Hold on. All right, we're gonna get back into the video. Dark Gable, and I want your feedback. Hold tight. But James Turner is 1,000% correct. I could. It would mess me up in the head, man. It would mess me up.
Me too. Me too. Me too.
Stepping, I feel like the guy. I got them looking like why. I never doubted me why. I never doubted my guys. You know you in it for win. I stand on 10, you on 10. I don't have friends of a friend. Only the fan of the kin. Only my wife and my kids. That's all I needed to win. Now I only trust my true friends. Had to cut off my loose ends. You know I win if you win. You know you win if I win. I swipe that cash, don't fold. I swipe my bank on gold. Don't think that I've been dumb. I spend like I've been broke. None of my cash can fold. None of my calls are gold. Digital dash on hold. None of my cash can fold. None of my calls are gold. Digital dash on gold. Cash is digital. The dash is digital. Go, go, go. Digital. Digital. The cash is digital. The dash is digital. Run it up. Digital. Living my truth, no tricks. I'm just trying to feed my kids. I'm just trying to keep my way. I'm just trying to live my...
First off, I'm not exploiting violence. I'm not doing that. This post is about this Hulu, whatever documentary about the Freaknik. I'm telling you right now, before you get in your feelings right now, if you see me on the document doing anything with your auntie, your mammy, your grandmama, or anything, bro, I need you to man up and understand that some of y'all are take one for the teen babies. That's right. Some of y'all need to pipe down when you get your anger towards me. If I'm in the film, if I'm in the documentary, you need to pipe down. Young man, pipe down and understand that was a different time.
Hulu says it is filming a documentary on the legendary Freaknik Festival. It's called Freaknik, the wildest party never told. The documentary will share the rise and fall of the influential street party. Music producer Jermaine Dupri is working on the project. Now, there is no release date that has been set just yet, but we know this is certainly going to bring back a lot of memories, both good and bad, for people all over Atlanta.
Yo, what up, y'all? Yes, the cat is out of the bag. I am executive producing Freaknik the documentary. Yes, if you find or see your mother on there, it's not my fault. She should not have been shaking her ass on cars in Atlanta at some of my parties. It will be on Hulu. Yes, a national network. So her ass is not going to be missed. You now will find out where you got it from.
Now, I would not grab your body.
All right. Listen, you know, Uncle Luke was very controversial when you and I were in high school in the 90s. The 90s, listen, the 90s was one of the greatest generations in my opinion, man. The 90s was a I call it, I'm out thinking about doing a show, Dark Gable called it Gen X Nexus. But the 90s was a very good time. We had the best music. We were emerging as a culture. I think we got the best of a progressive culture and old school tradition. I count on to be born in 1990 because things were evolving for the good and the bad simultaneously at the same time. But when you look at a lot of these women of the past, and Luke Campbell, Two Live Crew back in the past was very controversial. He's right. It's a different generation back then. Women won't use the Me Too back then. But here's my concern. If they went back 40 years on Bill Cosby, could they go back 25 to 30 years from Brothers from Gen X?
What, I'm sorry, repeat the question one more time.
If they went back over 40 to 50 years for Bill Cosby and Me Too, do you think they can go back 25 years and try to blame Luke Campbell, Luke from Two Live Crew, or this man in general, when the times was totally different back then?
Listen, here's the problem right now. This is where a lot of women are starting to shut up, because 25 years ago, some of these same women were pedophiles too.
They were.
And so there was a few cases starting to come up where they were starting to call women out to the carpet. I forgot which celebrity it was, but there was a few. Which one was it? I think I actually posted about it. I got to go back and look at it. But it was some of the female stars who were kissing young boys on the mouth and molesting young boys has started to come to light. So when these women are starting to say, "Oh my God, look at what these men did," well, that same scrutiny is blowing back on them, and a lot of them are not wanting to have that. So the Me Too movement is kind of dying out a lot as far as what happened. I don't think you're going to see that in this documentary. First of all, it's going to be too far-reaching. It's going to be too many people, and then you're going to, in order for them to prosecute, you got to see them on camera saying stop. And I doubt very seriously you're going to see a lot of women on camera saying don't do that. Mm-hmm. The difference back then was women walked down the street, you grab the ass, depending on whether they liked you or not, they would either receive it or they would swat your hand away. And most of the ones being groped on camera were the ones looking to be groped. Now that's the part they don't want to talk about, because it's going to make a lot of them have to own their shit. But a lot of these women came down there with the intention. They knew what they knew what was going to happen. That's why they had their pants halfway up their ass. They knew men were going to grab that ass when they walked down the street. Now, it doesn't make it right, especially not in today's context. But back then, they knew what was about to happen. And they wanted it. And a few of them were looking for that. Now, a few of them didn't want that attention. But most of the ones who didn't want that kind of smoke didn't dress that way.
Right.
Let's keep it 100. And see, now we've got this point where, we want to judge everything through this cultural lens, because today I stand firm, especially if nothing else for a young man's protection. If she says, and because I have a daughter, and because right is right. And I've always been that way. If a woman says no, that's no. I've never tried to force a woman. And it's funny, in the past, I've had women who said no, and I respected their no, and they looked at me and said, "What's wrong with you? You said no." I'm not going to fight. No, I've never been the type of guy to try to convince or fight a woman to be with me sexually. So when she said no, okay, no is no. Mm-hmm. Cool. Let's chill. But they were playing the game. And people want to forget that. A lot of times, especially back in those days, no, it was a cat and mouse game. Right. A lot of them would say no.
But they meant yes.
They meant yes. They would say no because they wanted to preserve the idea of their virtue. So, they want to make it seem like you convinced me to do something they came to do anyway. Mm-hmm. And when you stop, and I've had that happen to me several times, that I've stopped, respected that no, and they look at me like, "What's wrong with you?" You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, well, you said no, so I'm done. I don't have to fight. I'm not going to argue with this shit. And so when I did that, they looked at me like I was wrong. And that's another problem you got to have. A lot of these women are not really, especially back then, didn't really mean that no. Mm-hmm. Right. They went down to inviting that level of attention. So I don't know if it's going to get the Me Too treatment, because a lot of them went down and looking for it. And again, it might sound, people will look at, oh, that sounds rapey. No, it don't. It's not rape culture. It's the reality of 90s culture. Now, today, I would hope that's not the case. Today, we have a different culture. Today, we have different expectations. But at that time, you knew exactly what the expectation was. And if you did certain things, you knew what was about to happen.
Right. Hold tight. And this is an example of frats, man. You're a part of a major fraternity, one of the fraternities, but one of the Divine Nine, but we're going to play this. Hold tight.
But there are people that will. They will, right. So you should dress appropriately.
So I was in that statement because, that's just me. I had a little shirt on. I had a little shorts on. I got it. I can flown it.
It's a party atmosphere. It's just kind of like being at a ball game. Once everything gets going and you're walking around naked and you get grabbed, don't come crying at the end and say, "Oh, well, I didn't know I was going to get raped. Or I didn't know I was going to get fumbled."
They started out, there's a great walk around in downtown Peachtree. There was a couple of girls to the right of us, and they were dancing on top of a cart.
Now let me see you drop to the ground.
dancing, and guys were just grabbing them a little bit, but they couldn't reach them. So then we just was just chilling, watching them dancing. So then we turned around, and this other girl was dancing with some other guy, some guy that was in the crowd. One girl, she had an all-white dress on, and they had her on stage. She got up there, she just danced a little bit. By the time we turned around, it just got ugly. We just saw this girl. She was getting mauled. It was like a swarm of bees, just all at one time. A lot of the, trying to get their fill. A lot of people had the camcorders. They wanted to see her just be totally. And then the cops came over and helped her out, but the whole situation, everybody was just standing there watching.
My name is Buffy Purcell. I'm a lot of things. I'm a nationally recognized tax and personal finance expert, media personality, former reality TV star, and I'm an author of Crawl Before You Fall. I have brand agreements and I'm a very serious person. I actually am a very smart, very serious person. But I just want to give y'all a heads up that there's a documentary coming out about a time in Atlanta when I was in college, and I was about 130 pounds thicker than a Snicker. And I may or may not have been seen in the streets of Atlanta, wearing Daisy Duke shorts, dancing and acting a fool. And I may be featured in a documentary coming out on Hulu.
She belongs to the streets.
All right, that's what you call hood rat bougie. That's what you call ratchet or hood rat bougie. What do you think about this woman? Because you were in a fraternity, and not to denigrate none of the sisters, but you saw some of them women from Delta, or AKA, not to denigrate them, but you saw some of the women from Delta, AKA, I forgot the other one, Sigma Gamma Rho. I can't think of the blue one, but anyway, Sigma Gamma Rho. Some of these sorority women were getting it in. And not to denigrate them, but what's your take on that? Because they were getting it in back in the past.
Well, you know what's the funny thing about them, right? Even in those situations, most of those organizations of women are very particular about wearing their paraphernalia while conducting certain activities. So you won't really see probably too many of them in the documentary necessarily, rocking their letters and acting a fool, because on their bylaws, like these sisters don't play that. They'll get their letters taken for less. You know what I'm saying? Whereas in fraternities, hey man, people expect us to act a fool a little bit. Going out, shout out to my man who was a noob. They expect the noobs to go out there, twirl, do their cane, do their thing. They expect the Qs to come out wild out. You got women who come to us expecting that level of treatment. And so, they would come to the parties. And I also know women who said, I didn't go to Q parties. I didn't go to certain parties because I knew what was going to happen if I went there. So a lot of women went to these places and got exactly what they wanted. They wanted what they got. And it might make people uncomfortable to talk about it, but that's the truth. A lot of women got exactly what they came for.
They got what they came for, right. Right. But you know the internal victimhood narrative is going to somehow rear its ugly head up. You know that.
Of course.
And they're going to somehow find a way to blame men for something they participated in. That's why men got to be very careful. But you talked about how some of the women in sororities were very cautious. But it still doesn't minimize the fact that some of these women in sororities, they were getting it in real hard and good back in the day. Would you not agree?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, a lot of that stuff they would not do in letters. In their letters, they could not do it. They wouldn't do it. You wouldn't see them do some of the stuff that you see on the documentary in their letters. But they were absolutely doing that. Some of the stuff they did before. I remember some girls who got blackballed because of what they did prior to pledging. They couldn't pledge. I know. Now, I will say this on that regard. typically, and I got to give props to sisters, most of them were very discreet. They wilded out, but they weren't out in the open with what they did because of the repercussions, especially back in that day.
Mm-hmm.
Back in those days, if you're going to be in a sorority, you couldn't be seen doing certain things because they were the quote-unquote bougie women. So a lot of these women did not do a lot of stuff, at least out in public, or they did it prior to pledging, because they knew if they got caught doing certain things and pledged, then there would be that would become an issue. So I don't know if giving props to my sister, but they're gonna definitely try to beat the brothers up, the fraternities up in this scenario. And again, like I said, it didn't matter if it was the drug dealers got the same treatment. As a matter of fact, the drug dealer, the brothers that came on campus who was slinging dope probably got better treatment than the football team or the fraternity. But the football team got the same treatment. The fraternity, it was about status, or it was whoever. Honestly, all of us are a microcosm of the greater culture. Whoever shows up with the most money or the higher status is going to get the women.
Mm-hmm.
And women, and whether it be loose women or whatever, they're going to gravitate towards brothers with a certain amount of money, revenue, income, or status.
Mm-hmm.
And on college campuses, fraternities had a certain status, football team had a certain status. Women gravitated towards us.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. You talk about women gravitated. They gravitated to the fraternities. They gravitate to the athletes, but also men like Uncle Luke. When you were in college, the party producer, the party promoter, was the kind of man that a lot of women looked up to. Why were so many women in love? Because women by nature are hypergamous. They were like men with status, money, and looks and height. And Uncle Luke is basically telling the story of Generation X. But why is it that when it comes down to this fake virtue, they're trying to minimize their role in this whole dalliance with Freaknik 94?
Well, I mean, but listen, accountability is tough, brother. It's tough being king of the mountaintop. It's tough to own certain things. They don't want to own that because it's a tough pill to swallow.
Right.
To say that this happened because of me, because of my choices, because of what happened, because of what I did. This happened because I helped feed it. The reality, most of the time, most of the stuff that women complain about, they're complaining about the man that they want. The men that they want don't want them because of what they did.
Right.
There's a lot of men out there that don't give a damn what these women did in Freaknik. They're like, oh, I'm excited. But they don't want those men because those men don't provide what they need.
Right.
See, what they want, the lie is that men, because of patriarchy, because of a patriarchal system, are discriminating against women who behave a certain way. Mm-hmm. And that's not the truth. Mm-hmm. The truth is men who behave this, women who behaved a certain way back then are trying to get men on a certain level. And those men are not okay with the way they behaved in the past.
Right.
So it's not all men, and it's not all there's a lot of men right now who would not have a problem with that. That is not the women. It's not the men that these women want. And so that's the same thing that happened even back in the day with fraternities, sororities, or with fraternities in particular. These women wanted certain guys, and they were willing to do whatever it takes to be in our presence. Like I said, brother, it was nothing for me to go back in our suite and there'd be women sitting down waiting to be fucked.
Wow.
Sorry to be so crass, but
right. Mm-hmm.
But I'm just being honest. There will be women sitting there waiting for their time. My line brother, it was his birthday. Mm-hmm. And he literally, for his birthday, had women playing cards out front as they were waiting to have sex with him.
Mm.
He had sex with 3 women that night, for sure that I know. And they waited their time. Mm-hmm. And when his girlfriend came in and she spent some time with him, they all sat out front and they waited until she left. And then the next one went back there. They were. It was the craziest thing I ever seen. They sat there and they waited for my line brother. They called them up next, and then they go back. And then if any brother wanted something after that, they take care of them afterwards. But they came down to suburb. We would have these women waiting for us. and any brother who came in and wanted it could get it. And so we gotta, in this process, we gotta understand that there've always been loose women. There's always been loose women. There's always the Bible spoke of it. The Bible wouldn't speak about hoes and harlots if they weren't existing even in biblical days.
In biblical times, right?
The harlot always existed.
Right.
But the problem is you can't raise a culture. We have our issue now is we're trying to define a culture by the standards of the harlot.
Right. I totally agree. I totally agree. And that's why I said, man, it's a broken system. And even though, I love and respect what you're trying to do is noble, you can't have a system until you have men at the helm as leaders and them being respected by their women. I'm going to finish playing this real quick. And we're going to break this thing down again. Hold tight. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here we go.
Look at him, he got a bad little red ball. They used to wear Paul Sebastian back then. That's the cologne they had on. Paul Sebastian. Stinson and goddamn Brute.
Oh, the marquee, right outside the Civic Center. There was a little split, of course, about the sex show. And all the Greek levels.
Digital. Living my truth, no tricks. I'm trying to feed my kids. I'm trying to keep my way. I'm trying to live my life while we get rich. Mind my business. Money gon' come, some go. Man, if you know, you know. I've been through highs and lows. Here for the ride, I go. Slide and roll. Up and down, but I get up. The numbers crunching, no sit-ups. I grew up and got tripped up. Purple label, my get up. That's 101, not a run and done. Month to month, and there's more to come. I told Cushy, let's run it up. Now it's millions on millions.
Man, our people got drive and ambition.
None of my cash can fold. None of my cars are gold. Digital dash on hold.
Why you think I running like this? Look at that bad motherfucker. Look. Yes, sir. Of course he gonna take his shirt off. Digital. He took his shirt off to take a picture. Triple size pants.
Shout out to the angry man. What role would you say Dark Gable that fraternities played in the Freaknik evolution, in your opinion?
Hey man, I think we just came down and participated and had a good time. We were just a part of different groups that came out and enjoyed it. But you saw like we didn't. Now there was a Greek picnic that used to go down. Now that was specifically fraternity and sorority that was never as wild as Freaknik.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I would put the tone and tenor of Freaknik on fraternities,
right?
Because like I said, the Greek picnic, while it would have wild times, was never as wild as Freaknik. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, but I think what happened was it was an event that appealed to a certain demographic of Black folks that we absolutely used to come out there and enjoy our time. But I can't tell you, like, there would be times where, you would just have women who would see the letters across their chest. And I mean, I'm not even talking about college educated women. I'm talking about women who would see you. And my fraternity was kind of known to be nasty. That'll give you a little bit of a context. But we were known to be nasty. And you would have women who would be like, yo, do that thing that y'all do. Do that. Come when you when you hit it from the back, I want you to make that noise y'all make. You know what I'm saying? Like they came looking for us.
Right.
Because we had a certain reputation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't know if it's so much that we created because we have functions that we did that you don't see the same type of energy in. Like I said, we've had Greek Picnic now. It's one I think it's in Philly now. It goes on every year. Greek Picnic has never stopped. It just moved. Unlike Freaknik. Freaknik was cut off.
Mm-hmm.
Greek Picnic continues, and we have Greek functions. And generally, the women that come in are different because, like I said, sorority women, there's a lot of stuff they won't do. They won't do in their letters. So in our sphere, they behave a certain kind of way. Now, what generally happened, it would be young ladies from the streets or some ladies from the community who would come over, and then they would want that nastiness that we would do, or like I said, my brother the Nuke when he came, we was on earlier. Brother was it Salty Balls or whatever his name is, but Salty Nuts or whatever his name is. My man, when he came on, there's a lot of women who came on. They wanted that smooth Nuke action they was gonna get from the Noops, and they came looking for the Noops. And we had it was almost like groupies of a rap group. And it's funny. There was a time where me and some of my frat brothers were in Miami. We were at a party. In the party, we were up in VIP, and Usher was in the same party. And when Usher was young at that time, but shout out to Cool Water Jakar. Hey, that shit worked back then, brother.
It still worked.
It still worked. Cool Water was serious business.
Right.
But there was a group of women. I remember it was at this party. Usher was on the table dancing. When Usher was on the table dancing, he had his groupies, and my frat brothers were over there doing our movements, and we had groupies just like Usher. And now mind you, that was young Usher who was just getting started versus the Usher now. I'm pretty sure it'll be a different story today. But we had groupies, which was my point.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we were just benefiting from status.
Right.
As the brother, mentioned. There was a status that was associated with us. But we didn't create it. It was just, like you said, the same hypergamy that drives women. If there was if Freaknik was to happen today and there was 17 brothers to pull up in matching Bentleys, every woman in that party would gravitate to the brothers in the matching Bentleys because they want access to what those brothers have. The same was with the fraternity. It was like automatic valuation because you had certain letters. It is what it was.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Shout out to my man, a man supporting men. He said, Dark Gable speaking facts on status. I didn't get my share of boxing in college until I became a sophomore and up. What was your freshman year like on up to your senior year? What was the progression? Or you was always in the game?
I mean, listen, I was always in the game, but it absolutely increased year after year after year. The magnitude, the ease, the availability of it. Like I said, freshman year, it was kind of like, I had a girl back home. I would go back, I would double back. And then it was crazy. When I pledged was one. And then when my girl came on campus, there's the other thing a lot of sisters don't want to own up to. When they saw my girl and they saw how pretty my girl was, it was almost like a flex to give me more action once they saw my girl. Even before I pledged, it was like girls were like, oh, that's your girl? I better, you must be something. Let me figure out what you are. So women started gravitating towards me more when they actually saw my girl when she came on campus.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the fraternity definitely, but Pleasant, it just made it to a point where it was like, I remember times, man, I would just come in and say, I remember homecoming. I said, you know what? Do something different for homecoming. I'm going to have sex with a different girl every day for homecoming. And literally would walk away and mission accomplished. Mm-hmm. Towards the end, I would be like, you know what? I'm about to head home. You coming? Girls jump in the car. And and I'm not bragging on me as an individual, but it was like, it wasn't even special. We were getting that's the way most of the brothers were being treated at that time. Mm-hmm. Some of my line brothers, like I tell you, even better. Like some of the other fraternities, I know they were getting it on even better. Mm-hmm. So, we got to be real, man. that, and that's why I'm teaching my daughter. I want my daughter to be exposed as much as possible.
Right.
I'm having real conversations.
You have to
with my
early.
daughter.
You have to.
And I'm telling my daughter straight up.
You have to.
You know, to watch out for certain things and telling her how it was because I want her to know.
Right.
Don't be impressed by these brothers who got some letter on their chest.
Right. No, I appreciate your honesty, man. You need to tell them. My daughter is a senior this year, about to be a freshman in college, and I give her the raw game, man. I don't hold back. I tell her what men look for. I tell her how to conduct herself as a woman. I tell her about the power of virtue and the power of protecting her virtue, and that her virtue is in her ability to preserve her body for her husband. Something that our ancestors taught, something that our grandmothers taught. But now, because of the sexual revolution and radical feminism, women think they can do what men do and don't think it's a consequence. And I'm a parrot that talking point, Black Gable. With nearly 33% of men being virgins, then when women say the past don't matter, then what the hell are we saying for those men that are virgins that are looking for wives? That's why I say it don't make no sense when they say it don't matter, because you think those men that were virgins are virgins or are virgins based on their religious convictions, whether they're Muslim, Christian, or Jew, want a woman that gave her box to a bunch of men? It doesn't make any sense. Talk to the people.
Listen, it's the same with brothers who don't have kids. Mm-hmm. You know, and women don't understand like why brothers who don't have children don't want to date a woman with children.
Right.
You know, like it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. When we go through and we exercise discipline, because it goes back to that word, it's discipline. And it takes a lot of discipline to be. Takes
a lot of discipline,
you know,
right?
It takes a lot of discipline. Mm-hmm. And yeah, some brothers don't have access, but sometimes, you know, the sad part about it is women, the more virile a man seems to be, the more women want us. Mm-hmm. And so if, you know, women, unfortunately, it's almost a turnoff to women, you know, when a man is a virgin, mm-hmm. which is crazy to me, mm-hmm. but it's almost a turnoff. Whereas a man, it's like, no, I'm going to see what's going on with her. You know, she hasn't been with any other man. Oh, that's amazing. Mm-hmm. And it's not because we want to mess her up or we want to mess her over. It's because, you know, that woman has discipline. And if I want to build an empire, it's going to take discipline.
Right.
Goal, it's going to take discipline. Mm-hmm. And so what we're really saying is, it's not that, you know, we want to see women with discipline of the things that is most valuable mm-hmm. that they have. Mm-hmm. A lot of what women don't understand is that their money is not of value to us because they're not going to spend it on us without complications. When they go into when a woman spends when the average woman spends her money on you, mm-hmm. she's gonna be upset about it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, yeah, she might buy you certain things within a certain level, but when she's got to sacrifice her money to spend money on you, that's tough. Mm-hmm. Now, I've had a woman who was like that, man, and his sister would like tell me, you know, who would give me her last and do it willingly, and honestly, I should have married that girl. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But let's make sure ain't nobody listening. Glad I got my name changed up here. You know what I'm saying? Because I should have. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because
I understand.
She would give me an absolute last.
Right.
Without, you know, meanwhile, situation I'm in, you know, they helped out a couple of times. I hear about it every so often about how they had to empty some accounts. I'm like, I done gave that money back 10 times over, but it was the fact that they had to help one time. One time to help pay bills. It was upsetting.
Right.
So that their money, what they don't understand is their money doesn't mean shit to us. Mm-hmm. Their virtue means something to us.
Right.
It's the currency. The women are trying to have male currency and want female outcome.
Right.
They want us to treat them. If you want to use the same valuation that men use, then we should expect the same outcomes. See, being a man is not easy. There was an experiment, and she was on YouTube. You know, she said that she was a lesbian mm-hmm. who you know, did the whole makeup thing and interacted and became a male for a certain amount of time. And she thought I was going to be the man that women claim they want, that sensitive man, that virtuous man, that man is going to be romantic and loving and caring and all these things. She was convinced she was going to be the best man that ever was, and she was going to prove that all these men were bullshit. And within a few months, she was suicidal.
Mm-hmm.
She realized that to be a man in this world is probably the hardest thing that has ever happened.
It's very hard. It's very hard.
No sympathy.
Yes, sir.
Nobody gives a rat's baby ass about
Yes,
her
sir.
feelings,
Right.
her emotions.
Right.
She could not take it. She almost
Couldn't
killed
handle it.
herself.
Yes, sir.
And she became an advocate. And his sister is she's a lesbian, but she's now an advocate for men because she said that was being a man in this country was the hardest thing she's ever done in her life.
You know
because
what?
The women were mean and disrespectful. Go ahead. I'm sorry, brother.
Send me that information, Black Gable. Send me the information. I'm gonna do a show on it. We could probably do it together again because they don't understand how hard it is to be a man, but also they don't understand how hard it is to be a black man. And you think a black man like Brother James Turner, some of these brothers that are listening, that went to school, studied hard, got advanced degrees, making big money now, gonna damn sell it for mediocrity. They don't understand the struggle, like you were saying about how tough, how much discipline you gotta have to hold your flesh back. They didn't see you in your 20s when you were doing the right thing, trying to live right, trying to go to school, trying to walk the straight and the narrow. But then after you work hard and bust your ass, they're trying to minimize your pain and say, well, that's not me. Not understanding that it took a lot of work for a man to become the man that he is now. That's why men have to be very careful who they give their power to, who they give their love and support to. Because I'm going to tell you something, Dark Gable. I always tell men that when a woman signs a prenup, she's in your purpose. If she don't sign that prenup, then you're in her feelings. And I stand on that because you can lose everything if that woman don't sign that prenup. And you can't go by what they say because they always change up once you say I do. And a man like yourself that's a high-end earner, a high-value man, and me, myself, a high-value man that's emerging. If I was a single man, yeah, you're going to have to sign the prenup, boo. I don't know you. You're not gonna take it, what I work my ass off for, because you know and I know as men, as we're getting older, we're getting better. We're like fine wine, man. We're getting better with age. And we know as men that once you get a certain age, you don't have the time to start all over again, man. Can you imagine start all over again in your late 50s or early 60s? Or you about damn near dead at that time. Your latter years are your time to enjoy life and the fruit of your labor. And I'll say you should enjoy life as you're making milestones. You should slowly begin to enjoy your life, man. But they're trying to cry and shame and say, "Oh, you don't love me." No, you should say, "No, you don't love me," because if you love me, you'll sign this damn prenup. What's your take on that?
Right. Listen, I think the prenups are a necessity. Marriage today is a business arrangement.
It's a business arrangement, right?
Say whatever they want to say. It is a business arrangement, and we have to treat it as such. So of course, sign that prenup, do the work, do what you have to do, because at the end of the day, it is protecting your assets. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, if you're in your purpose and you're here for me, and you believe that you're putting your best foot forward, then it does not matter. Why does a prenup matter to you? You should be more than happy to sign a prenup because I believe in forever. I believe that we're going to be by your side. And what people miss with the prenup concept is you can stipulate in a prenup a fidelity clause. You can stipulate a time period. The prenup does not say automatically that as a woman you don't get anything. It just says you can't fleece a man for all his net worth if things don't go your way, or you just decide one day, a lot of women decide it's irreconcilable differences and they walk away from a marriage, or they find somebody else and they want you to pay for or finance them leaving. So if you're really here for a man, I think any man of any male at this point, especially if you have any assets, and any individuals, women too, because a lot of times women do. There are a lot of bomb ass sisters who are doing great things out here, and if they got some money in their pocket, they got some resources, they better protect that too. So I say even our women, they need to protect their resources, they need to protect their assets, and have prenups. And because as a man, I have no problem signing a prenup for any woman I would date. If I was to date Rihanna tomorrow,
right?
And and she says, "Hey, baby, I love you. but I need you to sign this prenup. I'll be like, look, sis, look, babe, here's the deal. If I give you 5 years, I'm gonna need $5 million at the end, but I don't want half of everything you got. I don't want your $1 billion. I don't need that. I didn't do that work. I ain't saying shit. Why do I want your money? You know what I'm saying? But if I give up my time, my energy, if I give up my business, I stop pursuing my passions to be there for you, then I should be compensated in the event that we're not there. But compensation doesn't mean I automatically take half. But you got this ideology that women think, oh, I automatically deserve half. Why?
Right.
Men, we pay all the bills. We do everything else. We do all this stuff going in. And then when you ready to leave or I'm ready to leave or you expect, when I got to go, you expect me to pay half because I no longer want to tolerate you or you no longer want to be with me. Half is not going to be okay in those scenarios. You know, if you poured into this and you spent money, you know, on this marriage and this family, you sacrifice, you know, then by all means get compensation. But a lot of women come in there. I was teaching school. This man gave me put me in $1 million home, and now that I'm leaving him, I want to be compensated based off that lifestyle. No, you don't get compensated for that. You go back to where you were. If you don't want to get with this man and his program and deal with him on his terms, in his place, then you go back to where you were. And that was teaching school. And which meant, you know, if you had a man who was making that kind of money and you had access to him for this many years and you wasted your time but didn't find a way to learn from him, put some money to the side, that's on you. You know what I'm saying? Like if I was to get divorced tomorrow, my wife ain't had to pay no bills. If she ain't got $5 to her name when she leaves me or when I leave her, that's not my fault. I wish a woman would come right now and say, baby, I'll pay every bill for you right now. You ain't got to pay no more bills as long as you're with me. Give me 10 years to live bit free, to live without bills, and I'll be a multimillionaire myself 10 times over. You know what I'm saying? So you give me that deal and see how much money I got. And she gonna come home to a clean house. You know what I'm saying? If I had a woman who was making Rihanna money and told me I could live in that lifestyle as long as why would I not take that deal? But you have modern women who are saying, I don't want to come in and do what you want me to do because that's patriarchy. But when you leave, I want to have your money because that's fair.
Set up.
Hey, man, this my boy. This is my boy, Dr. Dre, man. Dr. Dre, I call him Jack the Ripper. Yeah, me and my homeboy, me and Dog Gable, man, we grew up together, man. We went to high school. He's from a famous fraternity. He's a high value man, make big money. And we're just talking about the Dallas dances of this Freaknik. Before you join, Dre, you late to the party, so I'm gonna show you a clip because they got caught slipping and they got caught with their panties down. So hold tight.
Boy, we had a time last night. Tell you now.
People have been asking for pictures of me from the 90s, so I posted some already, but here's another one because I just wanted to show y'all the look on my face every time somebody calls me Freaknik Tina. I cannot believe y'all. I cannot believe y'all have dubbed me Freaknik Tina. What? How can y'all do that to me? Literally, I was just trying to look out. I was trying to look out for my people. And at the same time, I'm still trying to look out. I'm out here trying to clear people's skin. I'm out here trying to give y'all a summertime glow. I'm out here trying to do, hey, if you want laser hair removal, I can do it. I'm out here trying to help. That's why people don't be helpful, because it backfires on them. I mean, literally. I'm an esthetician, y'all. This is what I do. I do skin. So, unfortunately, now when you Google Freaknik Tina, my face comes up. And then y'all gonna let the video go viral, and I hadn't even filled in my eyebrows. So, I filled in my eyebrows today, just in case. Listen, y'all, if y'all want to take care of your skin, you can see me at Lash Wax and Glow, or you can see me at Dermani Med Spa. I'm an esthetician. That is how I identify myself. Just one of the ways anyway. Not Freaknik. I'm just saying. But it was a good time. But that doesn't identify me.
All right, Dre. They got caught slipping, man. They got caught slipping.
Freaknik Tina. I ain't mad at it.
Freaknik Tina. Tina Pendergrass had the whole world laughing at me. Silly fool. But listen, I ain't gonna hold you up, Drake. I know you got a show coming up. But me and my man Dark Gable, he is a frat. He's from a famous frat, a high value man. Him and I went to high school together. He got it from the mud like myself. But some would say, Dre, that the past don't matter. And you and I talked about that. And I said that the past does not matter unless that man can reconcile your past and your past does not cross his value system. But if you lie to that man and your past goes against his value system, your past matters. And what I find to be very appalling, Dre, is that women tend to minimize. When it come down, it's what's good for me is not good for D. So they minimize the importance of past. Your past matters. People say the past don't matter, but it's baffling because my man is in a frat, and I say, imagine if a guy was a frat brother, and he said he slept with 2-3 frats in college, and then somebody found out, and he said, well, that was in my past. The past don't matter. Do you think it would go over as being easy, or do you think that man would be denigrated?
I think that I think not just the man, but the relationship itself will go through some problematic situations. Mm-hmm. One thing about asking about the past I've learned is this, and what you mentioned just a moment ago, we're not really going to get the truth of a woman's past. Most women are not going to disclose, especially if they call themselves now high value women or women of quality, such as Freaknik Tina. Shout out to Tina. They're not going to disclose their actual past. Because they know that it may have an impact on their current relationship that they consider to be a valuable relationship. But I'm going to add even more to that. A lot of times when we talk about past, we think about maybe a couple years back, or how many guys you've been with a couple years back. A lot of women aren't going to expose their current situation, even if they're anesthesiologists, like she says, or anesthetists. I forgot how to pronounce it, but
esthetician.
Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. The reason why I say that is I've been with a lot of you and I talked about this. I've been with a lot of extremely professional women that are 7-8 figure women, and they are probably more raunchy and more nasty and more wild than any Aisha and Keisha in any strip club in America.
Right.
And they won't expose that to you. Now, me, I done seen that nasty side. But you being the dude that she met in church, you may never see that. You'll never sit back and she'll give you that anal. She'll never sit back and suck you from the back. She'll never sit back and invite 2 or 3 of her friends into the relationship. Why? Because she believes that her past is past and she's going to let that go. But I know that past was last week. Mm-hmm. That past was 3 weeks ago. That past was just 2 guys ago. So a lot of times when we think as men, when a woman tells you her number, her past, do remember she's talking about not just past events, far off events, but also she's discussing or trying to hide her current events. Because I'm telling you, man, a lot of women that sit back and claim that I was wild and when I was 21, bruh, at 41 and 51, some of these women at 31, man, some of the nastiest. But when you see them, you'll see them on platforms. Dude, I done ran through politicians. I done ran through women that own several real estate moguls. I done run through the women, bruh. I'm talking about women that were the editor for this, and I remember I was dating a chick. She was the editor for CNN News. So she saw, she was the one that in her department kept us from seeing the damages of war type of thing. So she saw when the child had the whatever was strapped to their chest. We don't see that. We see the aftermath. That was her job to make sure that we see aftermath of situations. And so she's making great money. Beautiful home. And dog, nastiest thing that you ever did want to meet. Now, in the moment, it was great. But for the man, but here's the part. This is my point culture with that. In the moment when she was with me and I was just a boy toy, it was cool. But for the man that wants to marry her, he ain't gonna hear these stories. He ain't gonna hear the stories of the stuff they used to go on top of her roof. They ain't gonna hear them stories. So at the end of the day, when guys ask about a lady's past, are we really going to hear the truth? Are we really going to hear the true Freaknik 2004 story from the pastor's wife?
Right.
Well, wife still is crazy.
But watch this, Dre, and I'm Dark Gable. But you can find out. And I'm gonna tell you how. It's devil in the details, and this is extreme. So I'm gonna preface about saying it's extreme. Make her ass take 3 lie detector tests from the best polygraphers in the world. And I know that seems extreme, but if that's listen, can you imagine, Dre, if you were Orthodox Christian, Orthodox Jew, or Orthodox Muslim? You want a woman that's a virtuous woman because her virtue and her ability to protect herself. Now, we know there are women that might be virgins from the front, but they ain't virgins from the back, and their mouth ain't a virgin. You got a lot of women and guys, and this is the dirty secret. But their box might be a virgin, but their mouth and their anus is not a virgin. And so if you serious about that, go ahead.
If you want to be serious, there's women that ain't virgin in all 5 holes. They didn't got something in their eye. They didn't got something in their ears. They didn't have something go up in their nostrils. Come on, let's be real with this. All 5 holes ain't full of virginity. Now, let me tell you.
And you know, I always got to run the joke, Dre and Dark Gable. I always say when they say, these women that lie to men about what they did, and they say, well, God forgave me. I said, well, listen, your soul might be saved, but that box is still a sinner. That box is still standing in need of prayer. that box still a sinner, man. That box is a sinner, because they say, oh yeah, but see, I say, that's between you and Jesus. I ain't got nothing to do with that. But they always minimize their bad behavior. But let a man do the same thing. They'll say, oh, I want an honest man. You want an honest man as it benefits you, but you don't want an honest man for the sake of being honest.
First of all, they don't want an honest man. They never want an honest man. No woman wants an honest man. They want they want a man who honestly tells them what the hell they want to hear.
Right.
They don't want honesty. If we told them honestly, you know what I'm saying, they couldn't take honesty. They can't handle the truth. But anyway, go ahead.
He's right because in all honesty, no pun intended, women cater to many women, not all women, we're not stereotyping, but many women or enough women cater to men that, like he said, that want to tell them what they want to hear. But the masters of it, such as ourselves, are those that crafted the ability to tell them what they want to hear. See, some dudes could tell them what they want to hear and they could be, I don't want you. But some of us are so skillful with our linguistical abilities that whatever we tell them, it just sounds like a fantastic voyage. It sounds like tulips in a garden somewhere. And so it's the sad part is quite often it's all about the skill set of the dude when it comes to our mouthpiece. I done had so many females tell me, I don't know why I'm doing this, slurp. If I had $1 for every female that come on, fellas, we grown on this. If I had $1 for every female that was in a relationship, that told me, I don't know why I'm doing it. Don't get that in my hair.
Listen, bro, I done had women on the phone with their man.
Wow.
They'll be on the phone with their man. Right. They'll be like, baby, I love you so much. you know, and as they pausing to give me what they giving me on the phone with that man at the time. And he walks away from that conversation thinking he got the best woman in the world who takes his calls whenever. She took his call with my dick in her mouth.
Straight
and
in
that's
her
not
office. Straight in her office. That's the part that probably blew me away the most because I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting, you know, while I was in school, while I was thugging and everything, the Aishas and Keishas from around the way, those are the wild women, you know. But these professional women, the AKAs and the Miss This and all the little signs that I thought that they were like, you know, they didn't got together. These were the sisters that was focused in school, books. They became attorneys. I see them on TV, blah, blah, them. And then, so when I start moving up among the upper echelon of the type of females that I could run through, I'm going to tell you something. I was highly disappointed.
Right.
Because I thought one thing, and I found out that the ones that were of the upper echelon that were doing the fundraising, going to the President's Ball, and we're going to the NAACP event, and we're going to the you know, whatever it may be, you find out them the real nasty ones. You like, I don't want to. Dude, it's women that will let you run through them all the way through their 6-bedroom house. All the way through, brothers, all you dudes that think that all the women that you see on the Atlanta Housewives and in this housewife, them the nastiest, freakiest, nastiest, filthiest ones they are.
Listen, that's why,
fact.
brother, that's why I don't do conditional femininity. See, women try to say, oh, if you just do this, then we're going to be the most feminine women in the world. We're going to do whatever you want. Bro, I don't buy into the concept of conditional femininity because at the end of the day, these women, you know, you could give them everything. You could give some of these women everything in the world, the biggest house, the best cars, the best this, best that. If they gonna fuck, they gonna fuck. They will fuck. You see Jada. Jada said she gave this man the keys to the car, the house, as he walked in Will Smith's house and had sex with his wife in his house. So, you know, even though he is Will Smith, the richest black man, one of the richest black men in the world, giving his woman everything, celebrity status. What nobody know about Jada Smith? Jada Smith was a guest star on the Cosby Show at best, without Will Smith. Without Will Smith, she had what? Jason's Lyric and the Cosby and A Different World.
That's
but
it.
She couldn't even respect Will Smith. This nigga, it literally saved the world. I'm sorry, Jay, but literally saved the world in like every movie he was in. He was Ali. This was Will Dammit Smith, and she couldn't respect this brother. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what you give a woman who doesn't learn how to appreciate it. And now, here's the deal, though. This is where I will say, though. As men, our job isn't to necessarily preach the same bullshit that women preach to their daughters. There ain't no such thing as a good woman. Because it is some good women out here. What we have to do a better job of, whether it's our women in America or women abroad, is we got to teach our women what a good woman looks like. And we need to do that as much as possible. And I know we're talking some real shit on this show, but there's some biblical principles to what a good woman looks like, to what love looks like, to what you should expect when you be in a woman, when a woman loves you. And I don't give a damn whether you go by the Bible or you go by the Torah or the Quran, or you go by the, you know, whatever the Buddhists say. A woman who loves you will be Corinthians, you know, but what is it, 13:4 or whatever, Corinthians 1:13:4. You know, love, she'll show you love in a certain way.
That's
and
right.
If that woman can't show you love the way you need to be seeing love, she's not a woman that's for you. And we need to be telling our boys that. But we have a culture that tells our boys that they need to be, it's almost admirable to save these chicks. And as J. Cole told us, you can't save us. You don't want to be saved.
You don't want to be saved, right?
And you got to know when to listen. Ain't no sorority gonna make her different. Ain't no letters gonna make her different. She gonna be who the hell she is, bro. And brother Love, you know, you spitting facts, because I'm telling you, I've seen my best freaks of the years have always been in sororities. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking real talk. Like that is that is where your boy eats, pardon the pun. You know what I'm saying? Like that is where the meat is.
And I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell you something too. Black Gabriel, forgive me for coming across you. Money alone won't keep a woman interested in you. People always say, "Well, you got to get your money." That's a myth. There are men that do way less and get more cooperation. Money does play a role. Pre-selection plays a role. Height and looks plays a role. But for those people say, you guys got to make more money to make her rest in her femininity, that's bullshit. And I know, and the reason why it's BS is this. I'm going to tell you why. There are women in other countries that got less. Now, can money help complement her femininity? Yes, it can. But if a woman is truly feminine, she's going to be feminine regardless. That's just who she is. It's based on conditioning and it's based on her temperament. She's going to be a feminine woman. So all this crap about, oh, man, you got to work so she can be her femininity and get your money. That's BS. I'm not saying money don't play a role. It does play a role. But if you weren't selected by that woman or you want her first choice, you can make all the money you want. As a therapist, I talk to men all the time. I talk with men that are 6 figures, 8 figures earners. Some damn near make almost $1 million a year. And they're going through the same problem, white men and black men. They make big money, but they can't get cooperation, man. They can't get cooperation for whatever reason. So it's a Western woman issue. It's not a black woman issue. It's a women in the West. They're very entitled. They're practicing what's called carnal hypergamy. And carnal hypergamy happens, guys, when the woman tries to aggrandize herself over the benefit of the man. And when a woman is operating carnal hypergamy, it's exploitative. And this is what it looks like if you allow it. Carnal hypergamy. They'll be singing that song "Tears," Dre, by Force MD, and the song by Keith Sweat, "Make This Last Forever," because they thought money alone was gonna keep a woman in line. Go ahead, Dre, and then Dark Gable. Go ahead.
One of the things that to go back to what you gentlemen were just saying. The brother was absolutely correct. He said no matter what country that you're in, because down here, Andre and I, we just had a conversation on this not even an hour ago in regards to, and this is somewhat what our topic tonight is going to be, in regards to women don't care.
Right.
Here in South America, if the woman is not being groomed to be the type of woman that you need, man, these women don't care. These women have walked up, I kid you not, it will amaze you how many married women approach your boy because I'm married. I'm gonna say that again.
Boy,
it will amaze you in South America how many gorgeous machista, indigenous, Afro-Colombian, gorgeous, highly educated women approach your boy because we're handsome men on this. I don't know how my brother lived, but I'm considering that we're all handsome men, educated men.
Oh, yeah.
They can sense that strong energy that we have, that confidence that we have in ourselves without being cocky. I literally fight off more married women in South America because I'm married. They feel like, okay, it's fair exchange. So when dudes come to South America, if you're not even picking one in the right country, they already said that Nigeria is the #1 cheating country in the world. 62% of women have admitted in Nigeria that they cheat on their husbands.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
United States is in the top 10 list. United States ranks is number 14. 14% to 20% of married women say that they've cheated on their husband in the United States. I forgot what it was with Japan, but when I was looking at the list, I was thinking it's got to be another country on the list. And when they hit Nigeria as #1 in the world, 62% of all women have said that they have cheated on their husbands. So the brother is absolutely correct. So I just want to go back and kind of piggyback what he said in regards to what type of women are you allowing into your life? Because at the end of the day, I'm old school. That's how I choose it. Old school, like my family from Alabama, my dad from Tennessee. And they used to say who her people is.
Who her people is, right.
Who her people is. If her mama ain't right, if her grandmama ain't about the right, Andre, let her go. If she come from a family that ain't about the right, who her people is? Them Taylors? What side of the city? East Side Taylors? Oh no. Don't bring her in this house again. She part of them East Side Taylors. No, don't bring her again. But Dad, she nice. She seemed like a nice young lady, Andre, but I know her mama. I know her mama. Her mama ain't about the right. That's what I brought here to South America with. Now, at this time period, I didn't know about all the, the married women and that they cheat and things like that. But at that time period, when I was looking for somebody serious, all I thought about was who her people is. That was the first thing that came to mind.
Right,
and so now today, going back to what Dark Gable was saying, a lot of times I don't have to put my woman in check regarding certain things. Her mama done already done it. Her grandmama own it. Female cousins own her. Did you do this? Did you take care of that? You're making sure this got done. They sit back now, they like, Andre, okay, we wanted you to take care of Andre and spoil him as a man. But you're treating him like a king child now, like a child king. You spoiling your man. You just got your man just straight spoiled. Yo, you going overboard, girl. Now they trying to pull it back. Now it's too late now. They done taught her all these things, how to spoil and keep a man. Now they looking at, oh my gosh, she really spoiling this man. But at the end of the day, he's absolutely correct. If the woman is not groomed to be no matter where you live in the world, she's not ready to be the type of woman that you deserve to have, you got to be willing to let it go. Especially if, and I'm like this, and I'm looking at it with this, and as grimy as I could be, when I was single. Right. Especially if I done smashed you a couple times, it's easy for me to let you go if I done smashed you. I already conquered already. I gotta let you go, baby. You ain't right for me anyway. I just not done already ran through you already anyway. So yeah, I done already got the coochie. So there is no reason for me to sit back and try to convince you anymore, because I done already ran through you about 3 or 4 times. I done done all the nasty stuff. So it's like, if you say bye to me, I'm like, I ain't heartbroken, because my motto used to be, I got women by the dozen. If I ain't smashing you, I'm smashing your cousin. So at the end of the day, he's absolutely correct. You have to examine what type of women that you're dealing with, and don't lie to yourself about a woman. That's the other thing that men make the mistake of. Right. We lie to ourselves about the type of women that we're meeting in these other countries, and she ain't about the right. And then when she continues to show you she ain't about the right, then you want to get upset, and then you want to do something that's off the wall in another country. And so, guys, don't make any mistakes.
Yeah. I know you got to go, and thank you for popping in for a few minutes, Dre. But me and my man Dark Gable, we grew up together, went to high school together, and they would say that where we were from, who our people is. But Dark Gable, you remember they used to say, don't mess with them big house folks. You remember the big house folks, don't you? You there, Dark Gable? You there, brother? You pop off. I think unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm what's funny about the conversation about the big house women?
Right.
Some of those girls end up in life being the best ever, and some of the quote unquote good girls that we all thought about were the biggest freaks. Those girls, some of those girls from the big house, man, have done amazing things, are dope. Like, yeah, some of them ended up like we thought they were going to end up. But some of those girls that we thought were the quote-unquote good girls, like Brother Love was speaking about, were like and listen, you just hit me to some game, right? Now, for the brothers that are reading, because I had to Google this shit when you said that. Number 1 is Nigeria. Number 2 is Thailand. Number 3 is United Kingdom. Number 4 is Malaysia. 5, Russia. 6, Singapore. 7, France. 8 is United States.
Oh, wow. Thailand number 2.
Of the countries. Now let them realize the list that you're reading is the list of countries of women or even wives that cheat on their men. Could you do us a favor? Now that they understand that, could you repeat that list again?
So the list of women who, the countries with the highest rate of infidelity in regards to wives is number 1, Nigeria. Number 2, Thailand. 3, the United Kingdom. 4, Malaysia. 5, Russia. 6, Singapore. 7, France. 8, the United States. Now, if we go, there was another list that had infidelity by women by country. I'm trying to see if I can find that list back again. It was, India was actually at the top. So India had the highest rate of all cheating women. But overall, it was Nigeria as far as wives. And, they say 20 to 25% of married men cheat, 10 to 15% of married women cheat. That's according to the research, but that's of self-reported data. Whereas men are most socially acceptable for us to say, yeah, man, I did a few things. We can say that. Women don't. So you need to triple that. If 10% of women say they were unfaithful, that means it was 30 to 50% of women are unfaithful. And men, we're pretty much going to be what it is. We don't have to lie, especially on these things. Women have a way of taking they can lie so well to themselves, they convince themselves that that's the truth.
Right.
So when they say they didn't, they can be like, oh, his penis was not big enough to be felt. So that's not, we don't count that. No,
right.
if he put that 2 inches in you, it counts, sis. I don't care if you felt it or not. It counts. You know what I'm saying? So men we count every piece of coochie we ever had. When you ask us how many bodies we got, if we can remember them all, we count everyone. I don't care if she had one titty, she was 600 pounds. We might not tell you that we did it, but we count her. Whereas women just count half their body count, they take off the table, okay. Because he didn't last long enough, he didn't feel it, he was too little. It was only one time, he no longer alive. Women take it off the table. So I'm just telling you, but what that list also shows is that the brothers who think you're gonna go travel, you better learn, go back. It's all about, to me, us teaching our boys, our young men, what to accept and to expect. What does love look like? What does respect look like in relationships? Because I don't give a damn if you travel to the ends of the earth to find a woman. If she doesn't love you or respect you, she will cheat on you.
That's true.
Period, point blank.
That's true.
Period, point blank.
Dre, I know you got to go, man. Thank you for popping in, brother. Have a good show on tonight. Much love and blessings.
Thanks for having me on.
No doubt.
Get ready for the show. And
all right.
I'll talk to you later. All right, gentlemen.
Appreciate it, man.
Dre, great meeting you, brother.
You too.
All right, be good. All right, listen, Dark Gabriel, this has been a good one, man. Felt like old times, when I started these shows back in the past, man. You were one of my favorite guests when I did the Manhood Chronicles, and you seen how much it's grown. I'm sure you're probably a little shocked, but you've seen it's grown tremendously since then, man. And
never shocked, brother.
So you never shocked, man. Well, we got our own brother, another brother from the way. And I'm gonna bring him on the show. Maybe we'll do another show with him too. All three of us do another show again. And my man, G Hustle, man, and hold tight as I play this commercial.
Tell him run it off. I wake up. Yeah. I wake up, flex, I'm down now. Check, no drip this. Wet. Tell him run it on. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch. Tell him run it on. I wake up, flex, I'm down now. Check, no drip this. Wet. Tell him run it on. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch. Tell him run it on. 9 out of 10 roll through my hands, I'm by my lonely. Turned to a savage, now my baby wants to hold me. I love my fans, don't need no friends, I got my homies.
Brother Gabe, it's been a good one, man. What are your closing comments, and what can we learn from this conversation, man, about female nature and Freaknik and the ramifications associated?
Honestly, I think what we got to do, man, and our takeaway as men, and this is what I would tell any brother who might see their woman acting out of pocket. Do not let the media convince you that you are at fault for having standards and boundaries. If you have a standard, if you have a boundary, if a woman or anybody crosses your standards and your boundaries, it is okay for you to distance yourself from that individual who does not respect themselves or you. Now, at the same time, young ladies, watch what you do, because your biggest attribute is your virtue. Do not let bitter women convince you otherwise. You have to worry about your virtue, how you present yourself, if you want a desired outcome. Now, if you don't want that outcome, then do you, baby girl, have a great life. But if you want a certain outcome, you have to worry about your virtue and worry about what you do. So to this point, to your topic of the night, young ladies, please, and I'm saying this, I'm good. I'm off the market. I don't have shit in this, no skin in this game other than I want the best for my people. Please watch how you conduct yourselves, because it will matter and it may catch up to you. And in this world we have right now, whatever you do in the dark will make its way to the light.
You know, Teddy said it better than me. He said, you can't hide from yourself. And on that note, Dark Gable, thank you for tuning in, man. I will be in contact with you after the show or whenever you get a minute. And I'm going to drop you down. Thank you for tuning in. We got to do another show at some point, man. The brothers love you, man. We'll do it again.
Absolutely.
But thank you for popping in, man. Thank you, brother. And so, God, this has been a great show with me and my man, Dark Gable, one of my classmates. We went to high school together. He's with a famous fraternity. He's a high-value man. You know, he has all the accoutrements that many women will want in a relationship. And he's reclaiming, and he knows what his value is, and we want you men to know what your value is. I told you men that there are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized. And understanding female nature is paramount, men, as we move forward in a time when virtue appears to be dissipating and where traditional women appear to be a thing of the past. Thank you guys for tuning in on tonight. Tune in hopefully on tomorrow at some point. I got another good show coming up for you guys. And have a good night, guys, and take care of yourself as we tune off. As many men are leaving America, they're leaving Babylon, consistent with Bishop Charles E. Williams, and they're going to Zion. Zion is the place where women are feminine and beautiful, and they know how to respond to and respect their men. Zion is the place where the women are respectful, and they know what virtue and traditionalism is. Be well, guys, as we sign off.
Then said he unto me,
Then the Lord said unto me,
Prophesy unto the wind.
Preach unto the wind.
Prophesy, son of man.
Preach, son of man.
And say to the wind.
And say to the wind.
Thus saith the Lord God.
Thus saith the Lord God.
Come from the 4 winds.
Come from the north, south, east, and west.
O breath.
O breath.
And breathe upon these slain.
And breathe upon these dead bodies.
That they may live.
That they may live.
So I prophesied as he commanded me.
So I preached as the Lord commanded me.
And the breath came into them.
And breath came into them.
And they lived.
And they lived.
And stood up upon their feet.
And they stood upon their feet.
An exceeding great army.
An exceeding great army.
That wind, and preach to the east wind, and preach to the west wind, and tell the wind to blow on these bodies. And the preacher started preaching, said all winds, all 4 winds, said blow on these bodies that they may live. And when the preacher started preaching, the wind started blowing, and all of those dead bodies, they came alive. The Bible said, and they stood up on their feet, an exceeding great army. But I heard the preacher said to them, you've been here long enough. You've been down in Babylon long enough. You've been dead and dry long enough. You've been separated long enough. Now let's come out of this valley. Let's go back to Zion. I heard them say, follow me. It's time now for a new beginning. Enough is enough. It's time for a new beginning. Come on and follow me. I heard them singing, and they started to Jerusalem. We are marching to Zion.
Fire for your mind. Kosher clinician.
If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. Heaven and hell, that's what they told you. Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. Young heads picking back up and young dolphins. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician, masculinity issues. Absent fathers who miss you. Mama drama don't kiss you. All a part of the ritual. This is how they get you. Separate the men, women clipping babies pretend to. Damn. Lovers, haters acting like vultures. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. Listen. Listen.
it's not my fault. You've been lying, saying that I took away your peace. Drowning by yourself, now you wanna blame me. Like you have no options. I ain't take your options. Nah, I'm not the problem. Man, that's on you, yeah. You've been terrorizing me, yeah, I'm always wrong. I knew you lost your mind when you dropped that bomb. Girl, are you crazy? Yeah, you must be crazy. I've been thinking lately it's you. You stole your peace, put it on me. But baby, it's you. Lie like a ride, but take your stuff back. Baby, it's you. Whatever, and I would never hear. You've been flexing everywhere. Girl, look in the mirror. Man, you so dirty. Yeah, you look so dirty. You were never worthy. Lately, it's you. You stole your peace, put it on me. But baby, it's you. Lying like a ride, but take your stuff back. Baby, it's you. Baby, it's you. If I control the weather, then every day would rain on your parade. Shine, you can't change, yeah. If I was Father Time, then I would change the day. So I never saw your face. What do I have to do to make you go? Oh, baby, it's you. It's you. It's you. It's you. Walk out that door, no, yeah.
tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I just pull it out and count for nothing when I'm feeling great. Give my baby little more just to spend it, and I'm always on go, I don't hesitate. Used to always know I make it, yeah. I'll be me until I'm in the grave, yeah. See my record, had to set it straight, yeah. I make to kill like 10 times 10. I got wires coming in, some in euros, some in sec, some in dollars, some in yen. I've been trying to keep my zen, keep my cool. Trying to keep the family fed, get my food. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. Did it, do it. I did it all, no gimmicks. I did it all, no fibbing. Now I got all these children, now I got all these clones. Now I got all you twinning, now I got all you thinking like all you winning. They tried to count me out, they tried to fill that doubt. They tried to ride my wave, they tried to knock me out. They tried to count my wins, they tried to show my L's. They tried to make me in, they tried, but where they now? Where they? Step in the spot and they stare at me. All of these battles will bear me. I swear that nothing compares to me. Feeling blessed, I won't stress. Beat the odds, you know the rest. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account.